Okay, we're ready.
All right, everybody, thank you for coming to our meeting today. We are recording and online. So if you are speaking, please make sure that you state your name ahead of time, and we'll move right into our meeting.
Okay. The first item on the agenda is, well, for the group to approve the agenda, if everybody had a chance to look at that.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously.
And then next is the public comment period. If you want to open up.
All right, we'll be moving directly into the public comment period. If anybody is going to be speaking, we ask that you do it at this time. We're going to be going over a lot of applications and doing a lot of discussion over the next couple of hours, and the interruptions are going to just not be helpful. So we're opening it up right in the beginning. So if you have anything that you think might be helpful for our planning, anything related to your particular properties, or anything that you want to say for 2 minutes, we will open that up. Patrick, did you have anybody sign up in advance?
We didn't have anybody sign up in advance, so we can open the floor to anybody here or online.
Is there anybody here or online that would like to open for comments? All right, sir.
My name is Michael Matthews, and I own the property adjacent to 7560 Solly Road. And when I acquired the property, it was W2. It down going into R10, and it doesn't fit the use in the area. I mean, it's a big warehouse on the other side of the road, a contractor's yard beside me, and I'm can't do anything with the property. So I'd like to get it changed back to W2 if possible. And then the other one is 7464 East Furnace Branch Road, which has been a car lot from the early 80s, and that's C3 non-conforming. And I also meet the criteria because I have highway behind me and in front of me. I would like that to go to C4. The other one is 7462, which is the same thing. I mean, all the requirements for that, the fire safety and hydrant put in, traffic study, I've done everything possible. And I use that as kind of my own personal yard for contracting. And I'd like to get that changed to C4. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for public comment? Sir, 2 minutes.
Good evening. Good to see you all here this evening. I'm following a number of different properties, but the property I'm mostly concerned with is the 7489 Marley Road. Property is currently undeveloped. Given the large amounts of residential development that has taken place in the last few years, as well as that which is anticipated in the near-term future, there is a real need for additional commercial property in the area to provide some of the needed commercial services to the people who are now residing in those areas, plus a number of people who are going to continue to live in that area. The application was submitted requesting commercial zoning for that property. C3 would be the preferred zoning district, but we would defer to your guidance with regards to the level of intensity of that commercial development. The property is in sore need of redevelopment. I think that local people will pay to support the more aesthetically pleasing than that which is currently the situation. Thank you.
Anybody else have a comment? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Chef T. I'm speaking about two properties. The first property is 1135 Reese Road. Reese Road in the Severn area, and this property is directly across the street from Van Bachman Elementary School. It is bound by R15 on two sides. So there's R15 across the street, and it would be a opportunity again to provide additional housing consistent with the nearby zoning. and basically support a greater diversity of housing options in that area. It's in the priority funding area, it has water and sewer, it's on an arterial road, you know, all of those things are aspects of this particular property at this location. The other one is 7733 Telegraph Road. This property is just south of Munson Heights, is an old subdivision that is actually developed at an R2 density. I don't know if staff has gotten to looking at that for consistency purposes, but those are pretty much half-acre lots. This property is about 6 acres. It's just south of Munson Heights. It's on the west side of Telegraph Road, directly across from R10 zoning where new townhouses have been built. And just to the north of the townhouses are 300 apartments that are newly constructed. And they're in the C3 zone with the R15 density. So we've asked for R10 at this location. We are in the existing plan for both water and sewer. We're on the arterial roadway. We are not that far from the Seven Village at the intersection 174 and Telegraph Road. And I note that in the housing briefing document that one of the housing recommendations to encourage development of multifamily affordable workforce housing near transit employment centers and village centers. I did hear the committee talking about the Seven Village at one point. And, you know, there are that cluster of commercial uses and there's the school. But I think the primary thing about actually making a village overlay work is that actually you get more people living in a close vicinity, so they will want the services and have some sort of critical mass. So we're seeking an upzoning from R1 to R10 and at Telegraph Road, and we would like R15 at Reese Road, consistent with the adjacent zone. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sager Williams. I'm working with Shep and the property owner to tag team on the same two properties that Jeff just spoke about. You know, sometimes I know the planners have addressed this committee as they have some other stakeholders committee about the need for housing affordability, housing diversity, and sometimes I think there's a tendency to look at larger tracts, but what I'd like to ask the committee to do is to not forget about smaller tracts. There are a lot of infill parcels that would support an increase in zoning density. There's a lot of what I call edge parcels that are such as the Reese Road property Shep just spoke about. It's wrapped on two sides by R15 zoning already, and then on the third side of roadway. So if you look at these properties, let's say between 5 or 10, even 15 acres, there's still a lot of potential there for to provide more diverse housing types, and in order to do that, they need some zoning flexibility in many cases. And that's particularly true of the Telegraph Road property Jeff is talking about, because if you, I don't know how much detail you'll have in your discussion with the planners, but it's a challenging property, but with some flexibility, it's a very developable. As Shep said, there's good access to an arterial road. There's public water, sewer, there's a school across the street, an elementary school. Or nearby, elementary schools across the Reese Road property. But keep these things in mind, and both philosophically and for these two properties as well. And if you have questions, I hope that, I don't know what your process is like, but I hope the chair will allow you to ask. We're going to, Shep and I will stay here a while. If you get to these properties tonight and have questions, we'd be glad to answer any questions today.
Anyone else for public comment?
How
Sir,
you doing? My name's Kevin Ridgely. The property in question is 827 Stevenson Road. It's currently my wife's property and the family. We're going for a zoning change from R2 to R5. We have, it's a WL line road. Everything that surrounds it is either R5, a school, or a church. We're looking for the affordable housing, whether I build R2 or R5, I gotta put the same street in, the same infrastructure. Spreading it across an extra 4 or 5 more lots makes it more affordable. Because no matter whether it's R2 or R5, I'm gonna put the same exact street in, the same fire hydrant, the same utilities. Now, when they ran the new sewer down Stevenson Road, they actually allowed me to put a 8-inch tap into the manhole where my entrance would be. Because Stevenson Road, they had a lot of problems running the sewer down, it was like 23 feet in the ground and it was wet. And as long as I paid for the tap. So the manhole's already there with the pipe coming across for the infrastructure and serviced by gas and electric. Like I said, it's a main road, it connects two roads, and it's Porterfield and Newfeld. I'm not much of a public speaker, I'm sorry, that's why I went last.
You're here, that means something, so thanks.
I know the workforce and affordable housing is the big thing, but the land is the biggest expense in any housing project. And it costs a lot of money to develop land, especially in Anne Arundel County. And we're just trying to spread the cost out a little more. Yeah, public sewer, water and gas. There's a new school down the street. I've heard a rumor they're gonna build a school where the tech was, which is directly across the street. Where Nazareth Park quarters is in the back and the church quarters is solar light. Yeah, they just redid Porterfield Elementary. I think the schools are all up to date around there. That's all I can think of. Like I say, this isn't my genre.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I also agree with the infill parcel part that he said. It seems like all these gigantic developments are popping up and the small land is getting overlooked.
I have a question. When somebody submits a zoning application, is there room for them to justify what they're asking for
Yes.
and their view? So the things that are being said here have already probably been written into the application.
Yeah, so if you clicked in the web app, each of the applications, there's a link to the actual application. With this, I think we call it a data sheet, right? And so that's in there and you can read through.
So as we
All
go
of that.
through these, we could refer to that justification in the application.
We'll try to summarize as well as we go
Okay.
through.
Is there any more public comment online?
If
Anything?
anyone online would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand. Nope, and we have 2 people online, but they're not raising their hand, so.
All right, with that said, we'll close public comment.
Okay.
5:51. And welcome to Jason, coming a little late. This is our chair, so
My apologies for my lateness.
welcome.
No worries.
We're good.
All right, well, if we're good at this point, then, I think the next item on the agenda is really just starting to move through, our recommendations in the Severn community, and then hopefully if we can get through all of that, we'll move to the Marley Neck area. Before we get started, for the committee members, you've been here before, but if you need a restroom, it is out the door, down the hall. I think you can go out this door.
Yeah.
Take a right, and it's kind of behind this wall here. We have water and pizza over here, and Lenise, if you want to join us at the table, feel free to do that.
Here.
Don't be shy. Yeah. This will be the type of a meeting though, where I think, we do have a map on the table. Some of you, I want to hear from you all. We want discussion. You may want to get up and point to things on the map or on the screen or whatever. So please, this is your work session, so please feel free to do that. So with that, why don't we get started walking through?
Yeah, Mike.
Might I propose that we try to knock out the applications of the people who are actually here? They've shown up, they've made the effort. it's not like it's 100 people. So I'd say let's try to knock those out first and then, then they can go on their way and have their evening back.
Yeah, we can, two of them, the ones on Furnace Branch Road, we're not going to get to those tonight, but there's one on Solly that we were gonna get to if we have time. Yeah, we can,
It's too much
I'm
to
sorry,
change.
but
I like, kind of like how we did it last year with the really simple ones where.
we
it's
were
just
trying
a
to
little-
drill down into a geography and kind of focus
Mhm.
comprehensively, because there are applications. And then there are a number of staff recommended changes within a geography that we want. It's kind of big picture questions that we have for you all to weigh in on. And so
Yeah, I
that's,
think we have to go that way.
yeah, that's kind of the direction that we were gonna try to go with this, but I think we should be able to hit just about all of those applications while we're
okay.
in the discussion tonight. If we can start kind of in the South Severn area, the last meeting, we talked about the Millersville area, so this is kind of following up with that. Our first application is this SBN 12 and 11 that we have. If we want to start with 11, since you have that. So this one, this is a 25-acre property where the owner has requested R5 zoning. They were citing changes in the area to higher density zoning, which surrounding the area, it's primarily rural residential low density development zoning. And but the applicant requested to excuse me, to be able to have more affordable housing in proximity to all the region's offerings. The Office of Planning and Zoning on this one, we're recommending actually retaining the RLD, kind of that lower density zoning. Just being R5, it's a bit, it seems like a bit too, this is the Winter Circle
Oh, I'm
one,
sorry.
that's the first one.
Sorry.
So-
Okay. So we need, what's the address? We don't have the address, do we?
Can
we go back to it?
I can get it for you.
We're looking at 11, right?
Yeah, no, 12, SBN, or yeah, SBN 12. Is it further down to the south? Yeah, right there.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the property that we're looking at, and on this one, the applicant was actually interested in building an additional single family home. Where an additional barn is located. This one, I did go back to the Winter Circle, that's 12, so. At any rate, we were supporting retaining the RLD zoning because there is an ADU bill that has been passed by council that would allow them to build an additional dwelling unit potentially on the
Scroll
property.
down so we can see the entire justification. Okay.
Actually, that's not.
That's correct.
I don't think that they can solve it.
How much property is it?
This is a 5.5
5
acre
acres.
property.
Okay.
Yeah,
So, yeah, the zoning, you can see this is all the underlying data here is the zoning and it's the current zoning. So you can see that it's entirely zoned
Surrounded.
RLD. It would be like one little house changing in a sea of RLD.
And so they wanted another house for their family, they could still do it. Is
They
what
want
you're saying?
R5.
R5. right?
this one wanted R1. Okay,
It's an
yeah, we've
R1.
got two that we were kind of talking about in general. Both of them are currently zoned RLD. One requested R5, another requested R1. For both of those, we're recommending retaining the RLD zoning on the property because it's consistent kind of with the lower density area.
How many acres do you need to subdivide RLD?
You know, off the top of your head.
Well, it's 1 for 20 and then there's additional, they're like bonus lots that you can have for excess acreage. RLP. Oh, sorry, RLP is 1 for 5.
5, okay, thank you.
This is 5
There's 5 point, how many acres?
5.4.
They could add a second house.
Patrick, could you
No, I
quickly
don't think
explain the
we
AUD
No.
thing that
We
passed?
Yeah.
That would allow them to build another house anyway?
Yeah, so the council passed a bill that permits, that kind of expands the
Accessory dwelling unit.
definition of an accessory dwelling unit and allows, it kind of expands the ability for people to add an additional dwelling unit for where there's a granny suite or that kind of thing on their property. I don't know, is there
Yeah.
more in a
so
nutshell?
Prior to this passing of this bill, you had to have it connected to the house or within the single family dwelling. Now you can actually have it either in the single family dwelling or in a separate structure. There is a maximum size of that ADU if it's detached of 800 square feet. So it is limited in size, but it is possible to have that second dwelling separate from the principal dwelling on the property.
That's as long as the principal dwelling is 1,600, right, up to 50%?
Right.
So if they had a house smaller than 1,600, they could not get an 800 ADU.
Correct, up to 800 is the max. I wasn't really gonna get into every line of the bill, but that is true.
Yeah, but I mean, it just depends on how big the house
It
there
does.
is now, and it's a
Right.
very large house. It looks like.
This particular one, but, so they could have a second unit potentially,
That's street.
separate from the single family dwelling, or they could have an attached unit without that size limitation, and it can even be attached by a breezeway. It doesn't have to be living space next to living space, so it's fairly generous. The ADU bill is really opening things up for people who want to have their families on their property.
Temperature check, could we vote on retaining or do you guys still have questions?
I have a question. So when the office says, OPZ says retain the agricultural zoning, what is, the idea is just keep it the way it is because it's been working? Or, I mean, what is
Mhm.
justification for keeping it rural? Because there's so many pressures.
So Plan 2040, the countywide
Okay,
land use plan set kind of an initial precedent by adopting a planned land use map that called for this in this area. And that's kind of the first step in our zoning
Okay.
analysis is, are
Alright.
we consistent with that? And if we're
Alright.
not, is there a good reason to not be?
right. Okay, that makes sense to me.
I don't know, looking at this, I don't think, the new was ADU bill passed by I mean, that's fine if you want a granny suite. But it sounds like, all right, how about if it's your parents and kids want to have their own homestead, basically. And they want.
Sounds like in the
800
middle.
square feet's kind of small.
In the middle of an RLD, like they knew where they were moving.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
a lot. Look at all the property around it.
I think like part of this is once you rezone it to R1, there's no, they have the ability to do one house per acre, right? So,
R1 is one,
Yeah.
1 per 1 acre.
so they could put
5
5 houses there, right? And at least there's the potential to do this. Their intent could potentially be fulfilled with the upcoming regulation. So if it's proven that that regulation won't fulfill their intent, they can come back and then do it. But I think you need to exhaust that option first.
I don't know, I'm with. I'm in favor of the request.
Well, this is a property that is part of a subdivision of an
Okay.
RLD piece. So there's another lot that's already the 20 acre piece. So the other 4 property owners all have the large acreage. So if you look at it, when you look at the boundaries of all the lots around it, you're gonna take the 5 acre piece and cut a portion off. That's gonna mix match it with Winter Circle. So that's what we're trying to give our input on. Just so, you know, that's my input.
think this perspective changes.
So that one tiny property would be
In the middle.
inconsistent with the rest of the surrounding, which is what you always
Well, I
say.
mean, all the other parcels are, I mean, I'd have to go through it, but I mean, all the other parcels, they're all lot numbers.
Yeah.
So it was not just it's part of an existing subdivision. And does the existing subdivision even call for no additional subdivision of the lots as a restriction? So we'd be kind of like wasting our time to take it to R1 if there's a subdivision plat note that they're not allowed to be re-subdivided. Because it's not that old of a subdivision.
I
Yeah,
see.
I'm not sure about that off the top of my head.
I understand. It's just something for the group to,
Mhm.
because you guys, the county's recommending it stays RLD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's all information that
Mhm.
it would be similar to what we would agree with the county, keeping it as RLD.
Yeah.
Depending on plat notes and if we got, you'd have to dig deep. And then this scenario, we don't have time. We're not taking time to investigate.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Can we move to
Like,
vote on
unless
this,
everybody
or-
gets this early and goes on and studies them on their own time before our meetings.
Not enough information, yeah.
Do we want to talk about, there are kind of three other pieces that in kind of this general geographic area, do we want to talk about all of that and then take kind of the temperature of the group on these?
Do they pertain, I mean,
Similar, I mean, it's kind of talking about a geographic block, so if you want to look at
Okay.
SVN 11, which was the first one. To the north, yeah, it's that right there. This is the one that's the 25.5 acres, and they've requested R5. In order to allow for affordable housing that, you know, they say is in proximity to everything that's in the region. Again, we've recommended retaining, the RLD zoning on this. And again, because of that context and consistency with the adopted planned land use from the land use map.
and isn't it true that if you increase the residential density around a school, it does have an effect on the school?
Yeah, in a feeder district, it would, yes. And we will be getting, you know, having testing done when we have our recommended land use map, all of that will be,
Well, I was even just
Tested.
thinking about traffic and parking,
yeah.
even if the people
Yeah,
that live there were gonna go to that school.
Yeah, our thinking on this was, again, just kind of looking at consistency with the surrounding area. Now, if we want to zoom out just a little bit, the immediately behind this, the kind of light green, that's the landfill. And if you want to click on that, yeah, this is a staff recommended change. It's also part of the landfill that we're recommending align with the zoning of the landfill, which is rural and agricultural zoning. So that's, I'm sorry, that's not a staff recommended change. That's a quote consistency change. That's just brings it into consistency alignment with the adopted planned land use. And then there's some other kind of just big picture consistency changes that we're recommending. We talked the last meeting about the cleanup of our open space zoning. And we've aligned some things, particularly along Severn Run, and the Jabez branch related to that. So that's kind of it in a nutshell in this sort of southern Severn, the landfill, Severn Run area. And now I'll shut up and say that those are our recommendations.
This is looking for an R5.
Yeah.
R2,
It's RLD,
RLD.
RLD to R5.
Which one?
Wait, this one, this one.
Mhm.
So did you still have the data sheet down here? Okay, so those are the two. Do you want to go over 007? Is the other one in the area or?
We already went over that one last meeting because it was technically Millersville.
Okay.
So it's just the two applications, the 0011 and 0012, and then the consistency change he talked about.
Yeah. ready
Do
to?
we, yeah, do we
vote?
wanna go ahead and vote on those?
Further discussion?
No, this one going to R5,
So they jump.
I mean, on 25 acres, it's 5 houses per acre,
Good job.
it's 125 new homes.
Vote on each section. Okay.
Utilities.
Oh, utilities. What's the address of that one?
96.
93 Gambles.
So the
That
second one
information sheet, yeah, this is super handy.
says rural, no public services.
Yeah, Arl, do you want voting?
Yeah. Alright, so let's take a vote on, let's do the first one we covered, 0012. That application is to go from RLD to R1. All those in favor of the vote?
Are-
Oh,
Are you voting to support the applicant or to support the OPZ
yes.
recommendation?
All those in favor of supporting the applicant? All those opposed? One in favor, the rest opposed. Okay.
Do you need the exact number of people opposed?
Yeah, do we need, for the minutes, do we need to take?
I guess
We're taking notes.
Sarah's online though, should be,
Are we about,
Sarah, did you?
I'm online too. This is Emily. I'm in favor of keeping RLD, which is in line with OPZ.
thank you.
And Sarah here in favor of keeping RLD in line with RPZ.
Moving on to the next application, 0011. Is to go, change the current zoning from RLD to R5. All those in favor of the applicant's request to change to R5? All those opposed? Yeah.
I think, last time we were together, we talked about if there's something in between, is there more knowledge that we might, have, this came forward with a plan
Yeah.
and, an entire community. I'm wondering if there's other information.
Yeah, Pastor, are we allowed to, like, on that, that the applicant wanted R5, we're not, I mean, we either agree with the applicant or agree with the county, or do we
Oh,
recommend?
you can recommend something else
Yeah.
So we can
altogether.
recommend it?
Absolutely.
I don't understand the R5 there without public water and sewer. I don't get it. But, cause I don't know if you could ever, until you get water and sewer, you can't even develop it or not. And
Well, they're saying this, the southern part of their land is up against other. Southern portion of our property is a testament to the changes in our area. It's seen as transformation into single family, now governed by R20. So are they saying R20 is next to them?
Who's R20?
No, it's all in the middle of RLD, right?
Yeah, I had made a note that some of what they wrote was not quite right.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't see any.
Yeah, and it says near shopping malls, I think, right?
Yeah, it's-
11.
11, yeah.
The actual weather.
That was-
I think they're hoping
In the
for a sign.
Oh, shoot.
Okay. Yeah.
The bummer.
The libraries and.
Why that didn't work.
They're trying to put a big
I
development.
almost like, don't wanna use this, I'm just. use the other one.
Do you want to pull up the other one?
can at you if
Okay,
you
that'd be
want.
great, yeah.
But with-
Also, just
They got approval to do the
we're
development,
voting
they
in
take
blocks,
it.
makes sense, but, with,
No, but like across the way, you see the big yellow
Make sure
square
people
there, like where
are
the CZ
voting
R3
for
is county
council
road
people
joint.
for like
That's a
that.
neighborhood developed on
Or
Wellens.
all
I
against.
think we're taking these two.
Is that-
On,
Yeah.
Okay,
based on R two.
Okay.
Will be actually.
So that whole, that is an isolated RLD everywhere around it. So you
Yeah.
can,
Which area?
the yellow, the big yellow square.
In the middle.
Yeah, in the middle, right
Right.
where Patrick has the arrow.
So that's,
That yellow is R2.
R2.
It's R two.
Mhm.
No, you need 10,000 square foot minimum of septic area and room for everything. And different zonings of. If you want development in that area, you know, you can recommend a different zoning than R5.
R2.
And with the landfill, it'd be really nice to have water down there. Instead of well.
Oh,
I mean, it's just like, so maybe if the county, I mean, yeah, if the county's gonna bring water down up against the landfill, you know, R5 would be good.
See what the.
Last one we did was small.
So we've already, voted. Do we want to add a recommendation or consider R2 or R1? Because that would be consistent with the property already there.
Which property?
The,
I don't know.
The big
R2
yellow-
Residential here.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, this one, no.
I can't do the like two.
Yeah. Here's the property that they were talking about, and I'm sorry, the big.
It's like in here somewhere. It's not marked.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
What do you mean? The one we're talking about?
Yeah, that's R2. It's not marked on this map, but it's somewhere.
Oh, yeah, it's not on that one. It's not on that map.
But like right up to here, it's R2. So this process has been done.
and it's been done with water.
that's probably, that's why it's on.
Yeah,
But
it's been.
isn't it like right here?
Oh, that makes sense.
And it's not in,
Yeah, it is.
in our, not in our region.
Oh, okay.
It's also in no public service for sewer, so it's not even in future.
No.
Yeah, RLD.
But you could say that the land could be developed with, with septic.
Accepted. Well,
Then we would recommend R1 or R2 and not and not agree with the applicant. Or we agree with the county and leave it as RLD. I mean, that's right, that's our options is to make a different recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, I think OPZ, our recommendation has been to retain the existing zoning in
Right.
place, and you all can either support that or oppose that, propose something different. Whether it's R5 that they've requested or something else. Yeah.
RLD.
Yeah.
That one.
Which would be maintaining the current zoning.
Yeah. I mean, we're not the last stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, look how much of this
Really,
light green we have.
I mean, it
Let's keep
seems-
some.
How did that get to be R2 right in the middle of the?
I did not
residential
look that up. I
Question.
don't.
It sure looks odd.
It's been there for.
That's what we don't wanna do.
Right.
Yeah, another
That's-
version of that.
That's a good example of not something we wanna do. We want it consistent and we want
We
flow.
don't know the
Maybe.
history on that, whether there was more R2 and.
Yeah, it's not something I've
Environmentally sensitive
researched,
and
I don't
the county downzoned it 10 years ago to RLD, all around it, but not where the houses are.
Mhm.
So we don't know the
Mhm.
history. So we don't know that it was just oh, let's give that R2 years ago, or whether everything around it, the R2 was taken away around it. We have no idea.
So at this point, you're comfortable with the decision to stay ROD? Okay.
I just think it was fair to discuss the different
Yeah.
options.
Sorry.
Mhm.
All right, so that was 001. We voted on 00011 and 0012, right?
Mhm.
007.
And do you all support the general
Consistency
kind of
change.
consistency changes that we talked about, the landfill and the open space and
Yes.
particularly longevity
Do we
and
need to
several
vote
run?
on that, like the general consistency changes, or?
Yeah, I think that would be good in this area.
All those in favor of the general consistency changes proposed by OPC? All those opposed? It is unanimous.
Online?
Emily and Sarah?
Online.
I'm in favor. This is Emily.
This is Sarah. I'm in favor.
I am.
All right, next we'll go to the sort of the area of New Cut Road, north to Derby Farms Drive. So I think you're kind of there now. Yeah. So SBN 102, which you're pointing to now. Yeah. This is a staff recommended change. It's actually open space and conservation property for the Coldwater Reserve neighborhood. So OPZ is recommending that change from R2 to open space zoning. And this also triggers a planned land use change to parks and open space planned land use. The next one I'll point out to you, SBN one.
Zoom out, 102.
SBN 1.
102, you said?
SBN 102, yep.
What area? I can't find that.
It's
East,
just
like,
north of where we were, like, here's the landfill.
I see 009, 005, 004. Like right in that area.
Under consistent. Let's see. Yeah, I think you just have to have the layers. If you turn on consistency. Now,
Those aren't labeled.
that'll pop up. Was it, what was the number again?
102.
It should be in this area.
Oh, sorry,
Seven
it's
one oh
also
two.
with, that one. So there's 102.
Could you possibly move the
You can
legend
feel free to.
up so Odenton Town Center doesn't take all that space? So we
Yeah,
can,
yeah.
I don't mean,
Yeah.
it's just so I can
See
see
the
what the
residential.
dark green is and.
Okay.
Initiated changes. So that, turn that one on.
Oh, there it is.
This is also a cheat sheet here. If you
Right.
want
okay.
to look at the very top line of
That
that.
should be right by
We
it.
have copies of this down here.
Yes.
In it.
All right. so-
Did you find it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just the layer for this recommendation was different,
Oh.
so it just wasn't
Okay.
automatically in there.
Gonna put this
Okay.
down over here.
Okay, then.
Okay.
So this is a pretty
Whenever I
straightforward
find
one.
Mhm.
Just recording where there's a,
Yeah, in this particular,
right.
So that's not buildable.
in this particular area, there weren't any comp zoning applications. There were a couple of consistency changes where we're recommending, there was a split zoned property that has 3 different zones applied to it, and we were recommending all of that. So open space consistency kind of change. Up in Porterfield Farms, we were recommending to apply kind of to their open space or to their common property, R1 to that full property. And in other words, kind of removing misalignments, zoning misalignments, and then some staff recommended changes, Severn 105 and 110. Those two are, we're
What were the zoning
recommending to,
misalignments up there? And he said that there's no applications, like,
no application,
this is just how.
not that, right? And then those two that she's pointing at
105 and 110.
are ones that we're recommending to change to open space zoning consistent with that definition of what that is. And that's the Severn Pines neighborhood and New Cut Farms
I'm curious on some of
neighborhood as
those,
well.
like 110 and then, looking at 102, I mean, the acreage is big enough for it to be an RLD and you could put a home on it. It's a unusual shaped lot, but I don't know what the egresses look like. I mean, if that's not accessible land for an egress, I get it. Saying we, like 102, that we would want to change that over.
Those are part of a subdivision and they're platted with an overall subdivision. So, in you were talking about 102, right?
Right, 102.
So they're platted open space.
That 102 is already platted open space?
102 is, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So how
Yeah,
do
and
they
so it's
turn
just
it?
aligning the zoning with that.
So even if we were to change it, the plat, the subdivision rules wouldn't let anybody put a home there anyway.
Right.
Okay, I'm sorry, I thought I had seen that.
I don't know why the things are not moving now.
I'm sorry, let's see.
There we go. So it's kind of on the ROD, but they're in the middle of a subdivision.
Yeah, so in this area, it's just kind of some general staff recommended and then consistency changes along those lines. We can continue and if you wanna,
No, I think I mean,
No, that's
Yeah,
good.
no, it's.
go ahead and vote on
yeah,
those.
so we'll-
Okay,
does anybody have any other questions? All right, all those in favor of the staff recommended changes for consistency for these areas? All those opposed? Check
Very
online.
and then the next area I'd move us to would be over the Telegraph Road area south of, we had talked about the Severn Village Center. So kind of below that down to the Region 3 border. And so that's the area that Desiree has on the screen. Severn 0010, 0010 and 009, I think it's those two right there. Zoom in. Yep. Okay, so these were two applications that we got. I'll start with 9, the one at the top. Both of those are currently zoned R2. Number 9, the one at the top there the request was for R5. With yeah, that's 8124 Telegraph Road. And then the one on the corner, the request was for C3, so they were requesting a commercial zone. And in both cases, we looked at this whole area quite a bit, and we're actually recommending retaining the existing R2 in this area. I think kind of the pros and the cons of this, because we had gone out to this site. There is this industrial plant just to the south across is it Grimm Road? Is that the name of the road?
Yeah, Grimm Road.
So there, yeah, so
8130 Telegraph.
yeah, right. Yeah, that might be helpful to see the street view, but anyway, so there's the industrial area just to the south. And then just across the street and a little bit to the south, there's a little commercial strip that
So this is this is one of the properties, and then across the street is the plant.
yeah.
And the plant is RC3.
The plan is
Is that the aggregate plant?
No,
Or is the aggregate plant farther?
it's not this one.
that plant's W2,
You know what I'm talking about?
so.
I do know which one, yeah.
This is, is that where,
Paper plant,
Thank you.
which plant?
paper plant.
Paper.
And then if you look to the kind of to the left there is an existing commercial center. That area right there is some existing commercial space there that does have some vacancies currently. So I think that was one of the reasons why we didn't support the request for C3 on the corner. And then the second application there was, requesting R5. So we just were recommending to retain the R2 zoning so that it's consistent with that entire block of residential on that part of Telegraph Road. And how close are we to, 005? Is that? So the address is 8007 Telegraph Road.
It's right up the street.
Oh, there we go. Okay. So further to the north and kind of across from that, industrial area. There's a residential property currently zoned R5. They were requesting R10 on that. We felt like R10 was a bit too much of a jump. It would be a bit of an isolated and incompatible island of higher density stuff. So in this case, we were recommending retaining R5 consistent with that. The surrounding zone.
What was the number on that one?
8007 Telegraph Road. The application number is 70005.
So it's just a single house right now,
They want to take it.
and they want to take it to
10.
R10.
What is across the
Ten
street?
dwelling.
Across the street?
What was the question?
What's across the street?
Yeah.
That's the, a storage facility.
Yeah, that's the,
Maybe zoom on the sign.
They'll let you park your semi there.
yeah.
No.
But also what's right behind that house. Is that where the trailer park is?
To the left of the. Trailer park is like right there.
Yeah, it's a bit more north.
Okay, so I have a question.
Mhm.
If we're considering the applications in terms of what kind of what kind of zoning is in the immediate vicinity already to make it consistent, does that block out the possibility of higher density housing in the county?
No, we're just giving our reasoning in our initial recommendation here that we are putting out on the table for you all to discuss and bat around, agree with, disagree with, and talk about.
And for our like recommendations, it definitely doesn't negate like having a higher density just from like the outright suggestion of it from an applicant. It's more about the compatibility of like the whole area for a higher density like housing to be thought about in that area. So really case by
Higher density
case.
housing would be more acceptable if it was already in an area without higher density housing?
Yeah, we do look at compatibility with the surrounding.
Yeah. Not the only factor, but one of them, yeah.
Or an area that was identified for some other reason as this future high density.
Right.
It would be the whole area, not one particular parcel.
Right,
Yeah.
in this case, it's one little parcel in a sea of, those kind of cases where it's just one house,
Yeah.
that would be less inclined to say, oh, yes, we're gonna get a lot more housing here and this is an appropriate location for it. But if it's a larger parcel of land, it's connected to water and sewer, it makes sense, on a larger context, that's the situation where we would, if it's consistent with the development policy area and the planned land use, those are the things we would look for.
I think that's what I'm struggling with right now, is that each one of these is a moment in time and an isolated incident where I still don't feel that I understand what is our plan for the region, right? So if we could say, wow, this is a really good place for housing. This is where the schools are gonna be growing. This is where we want to develop a place for people and parks and all of that. There's an industrial right across the street from it. Is that what we're thinking? As an R2, or, yeah, actually, we should take everything in the zone to R5 because.
I think that's why we have the planned land use to look through though, because they did the overlap. Like that's one of the overlaps in the first question OPZ answers on there is it consistent with the planned land use? And they'll say yes or no. So the planned land use with for plan 2040 did look at the biggest picture part.
Yeah.
And I think that kind of helps me understand it a little better, because if it's not in line with the big picture and it's just one house, one property.
Yep.
And
I think that helps.
we
me.
do have some recommendations, some areas of the region that are of Severn that we do have some broader recommendations for changing and thinking about a little bit more broadly. And I think then when we get into our conversation about Glen Burnie at the next meeting, I think we'll have more of that conversation as well.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't you say we could change the plan land use, we can give recommendations
Yes.
and say, yeah, because we
This-
can say, we think this area needs to be commercialized, there's too much housing, we need grocery stores. So even if plan land use is saying something, we can still say, yeah, but we'd like this better.
I do think it's a big picture question, for you all. This area south of that Severn Village Center that we've talked about previously on Telegraph Road, do we see this area as a transition area? In the next 20 years, do you think, we need to set this area up for upzoning along Telegraph Road?
With the airport and the.
Well, the thing is, it feeds right into, your employment centers, like you mentioned, the airport and Fort Meade. So you need that additional residential area. Basically, because those jobs are gonna be there. And these are well-paying jobs that people want to come to the county for. Did not, so but they also have to be on the affordable side, because not everybody's gonna get paid $1 million. So, I mean, I think that, in this type of area, and along Telegraph Road, look, if you decide that you wanna live across from a warehouse, that's up to you. But just to discount it and say, well, it's not exactly what we had in mind. Well, maybe you need to broaden what you think a little bit. Now, as far as going back to this one where they wanted the C3, that's right across the street from the paper plant. It's like commercial to commercial. It's the same thing. It's literally walk across the street.
Yeah, but
So if they wanna put a commercial there, hey, maybe a little restaurant for the people at the paper plant to go to eat, go there to eat for lunch or something.
But I guess what they said was that there's already that closed down.
Yeah, across the street.
Across the street.
Yeah, there's a little strip center across the street
Would it be
that does have
sustainable?
vacancies.
Again, I wanna say sure, but again, we're talking in 20, for over the next 20 years.
You're bringing up the right things to talk about. This is what you all should be talking about.
I feel like I'm on an island over here.
Give them what they want.
Bring it
Somebody
up
wants to
there. I
sit
appreciate it.
Next to me, maybe.
No,
I knew I should have put deodorant on.
we're 7733. Which one is that?
What, is that an address or
I believe it was brought up in public comment. I wrote down
7733?
Telegraph.
That's north of Donald's.
Is it close
That'll
to
be,
this area
it'll be
too, or
more
no?
north, like in terms of on the other end of Telegraph towards 100.
The Munson Heights
We're gonna
area,
get,
yeah.
we're gonna get over there.
Yeah.
A little bit later.
I think like Patrick or somebody was saying that the Telegraph Road down to Florida Avenue, or down Telegraph Road from the fire station down. If you look at the map, it's either subdivision entrances or it's just individual parcels of houses facing Telegraph Road. So what is the big picture for the 20 years? Is if you start doing either, at what point do you take, what's gonna happen with what do you want on Telegraph Road? You want to stay the same, everything just stays and it's got little houses all along it. But on those little houses, if there was a need for SB, they could go to SB property, small business, can't they? By converting the house.
It's not gonna be as easy to rezone outside of this process.
Once we get, the county gets their general development plan, it's gonna be tougher. To go to an old house on Telegraph Road to make it a business. Cause I mean, people don't wanna live on Telegraph Road, I can tell you that.
It's a hodgepodge, I mean,
And
right?
from the firehouse down, it is a hodgepodge. So what do you do with these spots? Do you take an upzone of people asking it to 10, so that you wind up with a little more density on just an acre and a half of it? And the guy next door on a half acre just
stays. I mean, what do we want, like, what's the general consensus of what we wanna do, if you look at the big picture? I mean, and if the general,
The transportation plan that we talked about, when we know Telegraph Road is a failed road to start with right now. If we continue to increase the density on Telegraph Road, you're only going to end up with a further failed road because we haven't resolved the first problem. Telegraph Road is shot as it is right now.
Because of
And
it,
in the future, it's not going to get any better.
because of the infrastructure of the road or because of the? We say it's a failed road.
The traffic on that road, it makes it a failed road.
well, you're saying if the traffic study's done, it's a failed road?
Yeah, I
Well,
mean,
then it doesn't matter what we say, if we have zoned everything.
I don't know if it's a
They-
failed road.
I challenge that.
There's areas that are like pretty bad, but I don't know about
I
the.
mean, do you,
I think we
should
Is
it
it on here?
between
should it
32
be wider?
Sure.
But, and the thing is, it's really busy at rush hour and then it's.
That Reach Road is a failed road, because the Reach Road intersection is failed. You said that intersection too long, particularly in rush hour.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
bad intersection.
Yeah,
It is.
that-
It's a bad intersection. We know that already.
Keep straight.
We talked about that in the presentation. right?
Like,
Now, we're talking about changing areas to commercial or to more, residential, where you have multiple units on the same land. Now,
to that point, yeah, you can't really do individual. Well, I wouldn't do individual, increases in zoning, like, because if you do, it's not gonna fix the largest problem, right? It has to be a larger plan. This whole area, I think, is ripe for potential development, but it's gonna take a much larger plan.
Well, and that can, I mean, that can be something that you all recommend, that we look at, for instance, the block on the north side of Grimm Road where we have the two applications, that block is mostly R2. Should we think about all of that being something more than R2? In general, setting aside just the two individual applications that were submitted, but kind of thinking holistically, should something be done for that whole block, or maybe just all of the properties that are fronting along Telegraph Road?
Yeah.
And if we want to even back out a little bit further, I'll ask you all this. Do you want to talk about, right now, we're kind of talking about the southern portion of Telegraph Road, so from Reese Road down to what is that, 32? Do we want to think about the area north of the north of 100 going, I'm sorry, from 100 south to the Severn, Village Center area? And
To Reach Road,
The
basically.
Reach Road, yeah.
yeah. Do we want
Well,
to?
they expanded the lanes along in that
They
area.
expanded one part of it.
Oh,
You still gotta go
it's-
through that bottleneck to get to the larger
Yeah.
part. Which your expansion didn't make sense because the bottleneck was
Made a, it
off of 100.
opened up a little bit. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't
baby
have to-
steps.
You didn't have to wait to turn that right. Yeah, you can go straight ahead. Which makes sense for the housing development they just put there. But it doesn't make sense for it to come off 100.
But from a big picture perspective, and you're talking about if you're talking about potentially concentrating somewhat higher density, allowing for more housing or more intensity, is it all of Telegraph Road, all the way from, what is it, 32 to 100? Or is that northern portion from Reese Road to 100, is that something different than the southern portion?
I think, my personal opinion, I think it is because the southern portion, Reese Road down to 32 has a lot more existing commercial there. Whereas Reese Road up to 100, there's a couple of small.
It has almost nothing, yeah.
Yeah, there's the Royal Farms there, there's the shopping center across the street, and that
That's
liquor
it.
store right before you get to 100, that's it.
Since I've jumped to the northern part, should we share our thoughts on what our recommendations
Got a lot
are?
of gray up there for your change, for your recommendation.
Yeah, we've got some recommend, is your
he was
My
looking.
geocortex is frozen, but I'll go back to this.
Well, I mean, do you wanna knock out the three properties?
Yeah,
we
let's-
just
Yeah,
talked about
we
it?
should.
And honestly.
It's up
those
to you
three
all.
properties Don't seem, wouldn't really have much to do with things.
These two.
Yeah,
This one?
those two and.
Or what's the third?
Where is?
I think
Further up.
it's nice to hear
Yeah,
more
further
about the upper area too, so you know what to do from south, to south, because we don't know what you guys are recommending in this whole area from 100 to Reese Road.
It might
And if
help.
that's where you wanna, like right there with all the gray, I think we should discuss that before we decide what goes to the south, because
Okay.
if that is gonna be a village center, and that's what you guys are, the county's proposing and hoping for, then why would, you might not wanna drag C2 and C3 all the way down Telegraph Road. You might wanna go to
Yeah. Can make a
R22
note
or
of that.
R10 or something on Telegraph Road, below it, to get,
Mhm.
but that's up to that's my opinion is I'd rather, just talking about one piece as we go along is really difficult. Because
Yeah.
we don't know what's
Corridor.
coming next.
Yeah,
So for us
So,
to have an overview of all these changes would have, I know that, I guess they're on, we have to take our time outside of these meetings and 'cause I was on there a bit yesterday and all, really gotta get to know what our vision is. We really gotta take time outside the meetings because we're moving swiftly. We don't have the whole picture before we start just going property to property
Do we have our SAC vision,
for our
Handy.
recommendations.
our vision statement? Maybe this is a good time to throw it out as well.
So perhaps, yeah.
I could,
what we-
yeah, I find it.
Throw it out.
So look at-
No.
And do you want to go
Back
over
behind us.
the?
Okay,
yeah,
so-
go ahead and look at that, and I can.
Sure. No, of course, yeah.
It might change, like right now, it's like, yeah, it's C3.
So do we want to go
Hey,
over these, this area then?
Yeah, Andrew's gonna pull up that vision statement, but if you all want, I can talk about the northern part of Telegraph Road up to 100 and kind of what our recommendations are
Yeah.
initially for that area as well. So we had an application, that 7733 Telegraph Road, which is, yeah.
002.
um, The recommendation or the request there was for R10 zoning, on that property, just kind of, the dark gray there. We had recommended a change to R2. It's currently zoned R1 and there's a lot of OS zoning on it currently. Our recommendation was to change to R2. And then while doing that, all of this other area that you see kind of in lighter gray on the west side and some on the east side of Telegraph Road, we were also going to recommend upzoning from R1 to R2 in that area. And that sort of brings that whole northern portion, you see the bright yellow there, that would make all of that consistent in that kind of intensity of residential zoning in that portion of the area. So that kind of covers the Severn 108.
But yet right across the street, we've got R10 and R5.
Yes.
So why was the consideration to keep it though R1, R2?
I'm sorry, say that one more
Why was the
time.
consideration for R2 versus?
Something higher?
Yeah,
The area of the application there are some environmental constraints on that site, so we were a little bit concerned and being immediately adjacent to that Munson Heights subdivision just to the north. That is more of an R2 development, so recommending R2 on that site as well is pretty consistent with that level of built condition. And so it's a little bit of a step increase up from what is currently in place now. And then just to the south, you have the Severn Crossroads, that new townhouse development that is on the north side of Reese Road. If you pan down just a little bit, that portion there. In the red there, we're recommending, just a change to, that one, we're recommending R10, which would just match the build condition of that new townhome community.
Meaning that it's already R10, it's already been.
It's built at that,
Yeah.
at that level. And then kind of the broader question of, and I think we settled this at a previous meeting where we talked about the village center overlay that's applied to this area. I think you all were in favor of retaining that designation there, so our recommendation, I would just kind of confirm that. But that's kind of our initial thought. So, I mean, now we've had the whole Telegraph corridor. Broadly, it's a little bit of an increase on the northern portion between 100 and Reese Road, and then below Reese Road, doing a little bit more to hold the line with the existing zoning that's in place there. And I do have a couple of details to.
So where are you guys proposing this village center you're talking about, or this overlay, what area?
It's in, it's adopted in Plan 2040, so it's the kind of that commercial area at the intersection of Telegraph and Reese Road. There's a little commercial strip, and then Severn Danza Park is sort of the north east side of
So
that.
just behind Royal
I don't know if
Farms.
it's on the,
Royal
I don't know if
Farms
it's the
Center.
DPA on the,
But
what about
nothing
that? They
across
have all the
by
layers.
Rite Aid or
Add
CVS,
layers.
whatever that is.
No, but it has
Nothing
DPA.
across from CVS or anything?
Or on the one I sent you, the Eric
auto-
spoke to you.
See, it's, yeah, there's an auto zone and the Exxon.
So what do we
Which is
got?
the
you guys,
subdivision one.
Severn,
Yeah.
your,
Yeah.
what do you guys,
I think the village center, I think more in that area
Yeah.
would.
But this
be
one has all the,
Because
yeah.
it would justify, well, first of all, widening the road,
Right.
which has to be done in order to add anything there. And that's the same part of land that we were talking about, has no, like grocery stores, there's nothing to do there.
and those little
More-
strips.
a little more to the
don't
left.
Give you,
A little more
Yeah.
width.
you were saying.
Yeah.
Only food options.
Severn,
McDonald's,
you were saying Severn.
gas station.
Well, it's a good point you
make about widening the road. If we recommend, upzoning, we need to recommend widening the road.
Yeah.
Like we got to, because the traffic there is just awful.
You couldn't put a town center there with the
You could.
current.
So you guys want like the Severn area? Do you want like a festival plaza or something where it's a?
Yeah, it'd be great.
I mean, like,
Only where they put it, but yeah.
yeah, like a 15-acre plaza. Like,
I would love it. You know, yeah, I want to sprout market, something
Yeah, I know.
people can go get their groceries without
So-
having to drive to.
other than the environmental sensitive area with the stream running through the back, that whole gray area that the county's recommended R2.
Yeah.
That's, if there could ever be a consolidation or an assemblage, you have a lot of acres there to get something decent if you want a shopping center in Sutton.
Yeah.
That would be, because you don't put it over near Danza Park, because there's not enough land. But there's a lot of small parcels, a lot of small houses, and that whole section where I think the application is for, R5 or R10 or something. But really, if you want the shopping area, I mean, that's the way I see it. The county sees it different. I'm just,
These properties.
I don't know where it's gonna go. If we need shopping in Severn, where do you put a shopping center if there is to be one? Does the county have anything for a shopping center in that? Cause the group here that live in Severn said that they don't have shopping.
And that was the intent with Plan 2040, applying that village center overlay there at the intersection of Reese and Telegraph. That whole commercial area got the village center overlay, development policy area overlay applied to it. And with the idea that it would be sort of that.
But unfortunately, housing is such a demand, the townhouses that were just built. And commercial product.
Right.
And we've had some
Nobody
development proposals for things like car washes and I think two in that area.
Well, that's what happens with the small parcels. You're gonna get little car washes, little things and not, little service and not anything of any size.
Mhm.
Where it's all consolidated together. I know where the
hatch-
townhouses were, would have been a great little village center.
Yeah.
But isn't it,
But
isn't it
it's a
the
lot,
red,
the
all that red
back.
Well,
property?
the one speaker that we had
So,
come, who talked about how difficult it is to build shopping centers, just because it's.
How far?
The cost, it's like, you know, can you really rent, you know, what can you lease the square footage out as opposed to just building residential?
But that's an area I think you could put as anchor as a grocery store.
Where, what did you say?
So right there on the, right where 100 and, Telegraph,
Yes.
that area that they're talking about here, if they took that whole area and put it as like a shopping, like a grocery store as your anchor.
Like the anchor grocery store
Yeah.
and like maybe two smaller type
Yeah.
something.
Right here.
But I mean,
And maybe one of those areas that like add townhouses around the center to add residents.
you gotta say people, and then it would be walkable, people could, you know, if they go cycle.
Because if you build sidewalks there, now you're connecting it to the park.
Yeah.
I mean, but I mean, I don't know, the person that lives in the area, I would just hate to see another like a car wash or like
Yeah.
another pop-up. I would want, if that were gonna be the alternative, I would do like building million houses. Like, I don't know, like, I don't know.
I, for one, would rather see multiple houses
Yeah.
there than
Um,
the way it is now, because the way it is now is, it's a lot of land. And it's a hodgepodge of mixed things there, connected to two major,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
And just to clarify as well, so for like if with the call out from Plan 24 to have a village center overlay there, that would then, you know, if we still think that's like makes sense for that intersection, would then move into eventually a sector plan as well, which would that help guide have some guidelines of what we would like to see for that intersection versus, you know, yeah, for the future.
So what we need to decide is whether we in agreement with your recommendation. Is that what the decision is here?
Well,
I'd probably start a little bit bigger and just get a temperature check of the group, like that Northern Telegraph Road area, the Severn Village Center, and then the Southern Telegraph, and then we can kind of go point by point and have a formal.
Just a quick question, the red, which is the proposed, overlay, is there?
The hatching is the overlay and it's already an overlay.
Adopted.
So it's
already.
adopted already.
It's adopted already.
Mhm.
Okay, so my question was, I think the idea of all that gray area going to an R1, R2 as you all are proposing. But the gray area closest to 100, why wouldn't we put shopping up close to the highway? You know, so that people aren't backing their homes to a highway and look at more density for, you know, R5 and all down where the red hatching is. So like, why wouldn't we be flip-flopping that to say? From an urban planning standpoint, is it better to have, you know, is a thought process that being in the location where it's at, better serves North and South Telegraph Road, having something in the middle versus having it all the way up against 100?
It was, I think it was adopted, you're talking about the village center, why is that there versus closer to 100 is your question? I think it's because the existing development, at the time that it was adopted with Plan 24, there was a little bit more commercial zoning, some commercial development, and so it seemed like that was the more likely place where that had some potential versus we have an established neighborhood, Munson Heights, up on up closer to 100, so that I think precluded that, and it's a pretty stable neighborhood that probably isn't going to go away.
So even if you change it, the owners aren't gonna, you know, not enough for it, so.
Yeah, and a lot of these properties on Minnetonka Road and then fronting on Telegraph, right there, they're currently residential.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge change, but maybe that's what the group wants to recommend, is some kind of a bigger change there.
So Patrick, you were saying for temperature check to be able to call for like where the group feels about like Patrick was saying, like north, that village center and then that southern part of Telegraph Road about if we feel that
Defining north as.
north of
One
Reese,
seventy, so Reese Road up to one.
yeah, and then
Road down to-
south, and then taking that, and like, we're hearing your thoughts about, or how you feel about having it stay like the same, or being it more of like a, like it should, develop further, if, like, where do we fall for each of those areas? Right,
I think,
We
So-
should let online go first.
yeah,
Yeah, do our online folks have any thoughts?
They haven't said much except voting, so I'd like to.
And I know they
Hear
have
their
opinions. We
opinions
know they
too.
do.
Emily and Sarah, do you have thoughts?
Yes, sorry, I was in the other map versus this one that you guys are looking at. Yeah, I think like part of our struggle that's become apparent is like really the vision of this whole corridor, so to speak, versus these individual pieces one at a time. So I mean, could our recommendation be that the planning office should take a holistic look at this whole corridor, without us? I mean, I know we do have to decide and make recommendations on those applications, but in terms of the bigger picture, I think we're all saying it's kind of a mess in this whole corridor, not cohesive, and I could see this as being a really great road in the future, and it's not now. The traffic's a mess, the road's too narrow, so it's a chicken and egg thing, I guess. So like, but I think this whole corridor could be transformed, 20 years in the future. I think it could be higher density residential, perhaps some transit along that road, connecting people to that town center. I can see a different future on this road, but it's hard to envision going from the individual decisions of each lot to a like transformation like that.
Yeah.
And that's why I think like if you're not like, I mean, I'm not a developer, so I don't really like know, but like for the people in the room who are like experts in this area, like where would we get the biggest bang, like for our buck? Like where would, thinking of that whole strip of Telegraph Road, like what would realistically be the easiest place to get buy-in for like a village center or something small, like I feel like, I don't know, like if you're saying there's a lot of little parcels and a lot of like little businesses are gonna pop up, then maybe we don't wanna focus on trying to get something.
I heard so much about Reese Road and the traffic problems that I'm thinking that, zoning considerations have to be considered in relation to the existing traffic problems now, and whether there's any possibility of that getting better or getting worse, depending on our decisions.
I don't know if it comes down to something this simple, but it feels to me like Telegraph Road might be in the long term better suited to handle increased development on Reese Road. I guess consideration of that, it seems like we've got a lot of projects on Reese Road. Telegraph is sort of like that.
it's a good point.
Next one, third.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a good point. Because that red outline, which is outlined the development policy area, right? So
Yeah, that's the
that
village
area,
center.
The village
Yeah.
center, and that's the McDonald's, the little shopping center,
Mhm.
all the way down to where the firehouse is. Or
This is-
firehouse is.
They down being
Park
like
here.
north, south, you mean, you're talking on?
So
Okay.
if that's, so
Mhm.
zoom in there. Because I worry with that area there, that's shaded in the red, that includes Severn Elementary School. A community that was just built.
Yeah.
They're now building what is it, Montessori school?
Mhm.
The Primrose School there. So really that eliminates those areas. So really you're talking about that one shopping center where the McDonald's is, maybe across the street, the gas station. So the area looks large, but the actual developmental spaces
Well.
almost
The
taken up.
potential.
Behind the gas station, there's a stream running through it.
Oh,
See that?
and
So you
Yeah,
look
it goes
at
from the firehouse. You see it there, the blue line,
Yeah.
the firehouse to behind the Exile.
right.
So
then-
that cuts that. What is that, Patrick? What's the county saying about that? Is that environmental sensitive? You guys got it hashed as an overlay. with the street.
Where?
Behind the gas station, there's like the little stream
Yeah, all
running
the way
behind.
below Reese, south of.
I
Here.
think that doesn't have,
Yeah, that
is there
area.
any OS
I
or?
mean, how much is really, is that part of the overlay?
There's
It
a,
is, yeah.
It probably made sense when they were doing this plan, because those things weren't developed yet.
So let me just, let's talk about what the definition of the overlay is too, just to back up a minute, because this area is all within the neighborhood preservation policy area, which means we're not really encouraging growth per se on a large scale in this area. It's more keeping with the pattern of development, of residential development that's already there. I mean, infill, but it's not large scale growth. The village center overlay is existing or planned, walkable, pedestrian-oriented, mixed-use areas that are suburban or rural in character, compatible with the underlying policy area and surrounding community. Development and redevelopment is oriented toward the community, enhances community heritage, and is implemented by a village sector plan. So it's not necessarily large-scale commercial. It can be smaller scale, but I think the vision when this was originally designated was that it would be more walkable, kind of local scale commercial. But I think you guys are making a good point that it is largely built out.
Yeah.
I don't know if that just provides a little more context for the conversation.
I think it also makes me think, once you change the zone, it can be anything. So maybe the people 10, 20 years ago were like, oh, that'd be cool to have this center. And then they don't have the ability to make it exactly what they want, even though it's in zone. That makes.
Now the zone was changed and now more residential were added in, the four farms is relatively. I want to say that.
I mean, 100 isn't even that old, if you think about it.
yeah, and sure. I'll point out too, the village center, it's not a zoning category in itself. It's a kind of a policy area that triggers a sector plan like Andrew had mentioned, and that's something that would come later if we retain that.
Yeah.
The zoning that's in place, most of that is C3 zoning, so kind of that general commercial zoning that also accommodates, bigger box stores, and I don't know how to say it in a nutshell what C3 is, but that's primarily what the commercial zoning in this area within that village center is. And yeah.
So for this decision that we need to vote on today is to do what? I want to make sure I'm clear on that.
I think I would start kind of big picture. Do you, OPZ is recommending a slight upzoning along the Telegraph corridor north of the village center. We're recommending retaining the village center policy area designation for that intersection. And then to the south, in terms of the.
So let's start with the north area.
Okay.
So 170 with Reese Road up to 100. That's what we're talking about, the north area. As somebody who lives in that area, I definitely support the upzoning of the residential houses up there, the R2.
And then so the question, that was our recommendation, was R2. I think the question for you all is, are you all thinking, because there was some discussion of recommending something higher, and we had an application requesting R10.
Did we go over that application in particular?
We did.
Yeah, I do R5 in that area. Cause you already have,
Yeah.
we were just talking about changing the new development that was just there, put there to R5, right? Cause it was built as
It's R10, I think it's built as R10.
Which one are you?
the new
talking about?
development
townhouses?
near the shopping center.
Yeah, the townhouses are R10, and that was our recommendation for that. Or, yes, R10 built condition, and we're recommending R10 for that, yes.
R10. So the only question is, I definitely think it should be increased, but should it be consistent with that R10 all the way up to allow for other areas to be developed? I wouldn't be against it because you have that pocket of townhomes, then you have the pocket of townhomes right by
The liquor store.
the liquor store.
There's the big new development that's like behind the liquor store, if you wanna say, it.
Yeah.
It's it's like between, it's where like 100, where 100 is. If-
Oh, yeah, to the right.
Yeah, if you, it basically gotta go back there a little bit and bam, it's a huge,
Is it like apartments or condos?
A condo.
it's like, it might be condos,
Yeah.
I hadn't ventured, honestly, I hadn't ventured back there, so.
Sandy Farms.
Right, what's going in there?
That's, those are all lease units.
And Desiree's pulling up this sewer situation in that area.
Okay.
This is Sarah. I'm not opposed to increasing the density in that area in general, but then whose responsibility, like the road itself, like if we agree to increase density, does that automatically, does the roads department do a review and say, we need to redo this road, or like, how does that work?
So with the plan, there's going to be a transportation element where we try to prioritize some transportation recommendations in the region, and we can say that Telegraph Road is a priority for transportation improvements and capacity improvements. And maybe we want to specify the village center if we're keeping that as a transit, for transit connections and that sort of thing. So yeah, that would show up in the plan complementary to what we're talking about here.
Okay. So increasing the zoning, whether it's the R5 or R10, contingent on recommending the transportation increases. Or can we only speak to one part of that? Can we approve, but then do a recommendation of reconsider transportation?
I would say make a recommendation on the application first, which is, I'm sorry, I've lost, okay.
Whether to take your recommendation.
0002.
Two, yeah, they requested R10. Their current zoning is R1 and OS zoning. OPZ had recommended R2 initially, so I think what you're talking about is maybe a motion to disagree with OPZ and recommend R5 for that.
Yeah, I'd recommend R5. Because across the street is R5, right?
And R10.
It is R10?
R5 and R10.
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
some of both.
R5 and R10.
So you're talking about for the larger area, not just the application,
No, I'm talking about
correct?
the application, because I can see why they want R10, because the plot right across the street from them was just developed as R10.
But I would actually, for both their application and for all of the OBC recommendation, I would say, make it consistent at R5.
Yeah. Good. That makes sense.
Why would we split the difference?
Instead of making theirs R10 and everything that's around it R2.
We can't change this, because that's already R10, right? But if we make this R10,
They're trying to pull
And then
Yeah, you have a
everything
pocket.
on
Yeah,
your side is
Geocortex
R2.
won't load.
you have that little tiny pocket.
I'm-
R10 again.
Is yours working?
I think so.
That's actually-
It's just like,
I don't know if I can.
if OPZ, if they can send them a letter saying, hey, we'd like to change your zoning to R10. To the landowners that haven't put the proposal, haven't requested the change.
But they did on this.
The one did, yeah, 002.
Right, but again, you mentioned, like their neighbor had, that didn't. seem to
It's
have-
already an
Didn't have any interest.
established community though, right? They're not just gonna tear down houses.
Yeah, I would
build
probably
more.
recommend for the subdivision to the north of the applicant that go to R2, because that's sort of the built condition there. I don't know that it benefits one way or the other to go to R5. And it's a stable community. I don't anticipate in 20 years it's gonna be any different. I am a little more curious about what you all would say, kind of that Minnetonka Road area and to the north and south of that. And the applicant.
Maps.
This one, the one off the 170. People cut through to get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't,
Only road that.
it doesn't really have a real, like,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can point out,
That's the, isn't that
Village
the?
Center, okay,
Yeah,
here we
Center
go.
North. And for folks who are watching
There we
online,
go.
sorry,
I know.
we're having technical issues.
Okay, so now I can put, so. push it really-
Running R1,
I've got it.
they're requesting R10. And OPZ says R2.
And those.
Yeah.
And I think another one before you finish.
Jason, do you have a disclosure to make about that Jason's Landing way?
I wish. Somebody owes me a check.
Still in existence? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
We actually almost moved in there.
really?
So immediately along Telegraph Road, all of that is in existing sewer service. And then some of the areas off are in planned or future, but
Okay, do we want to? I guess first take a vote on the landowner's request. So there's. Although I guess we can vote on to approve their request first.
Would you repeat what the request is? Because
The
my
request is to-
geocortex's storage capacity is kind of that,
Currently zoned as R1,
right?
OS/R1. They're requesting R10,
Wow.
and OPZ's recommendation is R2. So I guess all those in favor of approving the landowner's request of R10, going from R1 to R10. One.
It's their land, let them do what they want. You know, stop telling people what they gotta do.
Well, the consequences of,
Yeah.
I mean, traffic is
All
one.
those opposed of approving the landowner's request? To go from R1 to R10?
Proposing middle ground.
Online.
So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think it should be something to do it.
So we have 5 in favor of denying the request completely. And then,
No, I'm for a middle ground too.
okay, so middle ground. Okay, so, I guess how many in favor of a different option other than what OPZ is proposing or what?
Propose whatever it is, like,
Yeah.
how many are in favor of R5?
yeah, like that'd be like
Yeah.
a new
How many people are
vote.
in favor of R5?
Your proposal was R2?
R2 is.
we recommended R2.
Those in favor of R5.
OPC can waive anything.
4, 5,
And our online
8
folks,
in the room.
Yeah, Sarah and,
I'm in favor of increasing the zoning for sure. R5 would be fine. I'd be willing to go up to 10 if it was more holistically like with other lots in that same area, like upzoning.
Across the street though, right? Yeah, across the street for 10.
It's R10 right there and also with the new, right beside it's
there is
R10
a
with the
question of
townhouses.
whether we're just considering the application or are we considering the whole area? I think we had concerns about the application area being sandwiched in between some very
Yeah.
much lower density areas. So if you're considering it holistically, that might be a
I think we
different.
should consider it holistically, the whole area.
Mhm.
I recommend whole area go to R5,
So that would be like another
Including the
vote.
applicant.
including the app.
Okay.
So how many people are in favor of the whole area? That we identify as the northern part of Telegraph Road and the applicant going from its current zoning to R5.
Quick question, that's subsequently down zone the R10 region?
No.
No?
If I can totally put words in your mouth, I think you're saying the areas that are kind of in light gray in this map here. Although I would again say the established neighborhood, Munson Heights at the top. that's kind of built at an R2 density. I would recommend not putting that in R5. But maybe all of that other light gray stuff, if you wanted to
Just
go
on Telegraph
R5
Road, you're
on
saying?
Telegraph Road, well, and Minnetonka as well, potentially.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to it. But not, yeah.
Okay. So,
Did that make sense?
it did.
Okay,
I mean, I personally, I don't think, if it's an established community, us changing it to R5 shouldn't. What will be the real world impact of it? Right? A developer's not gonna come in there and put,
Yeah, those houses, when were they built? Probably sixties or seventies, so they're not gonna redevelop anytime soon.
so for consistency, have the whole
but-
thing be R5.
I mean, certain lots, I mean, you got 15, most of them are 15 to 17,000 square feet. With the R5, I mean, I think, my personal opinion, Munson Heights is done, it should be R2. If you take it to R5, is somebody gonna be able to subdivide if the plat would allow
Yeah, that's true.
it? I mean, it wouldn't have rec-area density, it'd be really tough.
What's the size of that
But
property?
why not keep it what it is, like the counties recommend?
Hey, Patrick,
yes, this is
this
Christina.
is Christina online. So I'm looking at, what's this neighborhood up at the north called, this SVN 103, Munson?
Munson Heights.
Okay, so my only concern with upzoning Munson Heights, and we've had this happen with some of the regions that are at county council right now, is that if you take that to a zoning that's not consistent with the density on the ground, first of all, there's very little opportunity to develop that area at the higher level zoning. And a lot of those property owners are probably going to be concerned that their property tax is going to increase. And we have basically instructed property owners to go talk to the Maryland Department of Assessment and Taxation if they have questions. But we had an area in Region 2 that we recommended go from R1 to R5, and it ended up, and it was already developed at an R1 density, and ultimately the county council member in that area is amending that area to remove it. So I would really strongly recommend that we not recommend for upzoning on this existing neighborhood to the north.
That's fair. I have no objection to that. I mean, makes sense.
Should be, just keep it on.
So if we keep, yeah, so north of, so first thing will be agree with you all to rezone it as R2, right? Because it was something else before and you recommended.
It's R1 currently, it's built at
It's
R2
built at
density.
R2. So for consistency to rezone that as R2, which is already the conditions on the ground. And then everything, including the property owner that requested 002. The light gray area below that, take that to R5. Make sense?
And all of the light gray areas.
And all of the light gray area up until where the red is.
Including on the other side of Telegraph Road, just to make sure we're on, so just to be clear. This area, you guys are talking about, this area
And
and that area,
Yeah.
those three chunks.
Those three chunks are. Those three chunks are R5.
What is it right now? Why is it gray?
R1.
It's just great because that was one place that we were recommending a change on. The greatest representative.
But you were recommending two.
We were recommending two.
So if we say R5 in those three areas, the two properties directly below the landowner request, and then across the one property across the street. To R5.
And the other great part over it, a little farther to, we observe, that's the actual applicant's area.
No, that's a
different change. It's not all of the, like the specific of the gray areas I was mentioning, that's why I wanted to clarify.
Mhm.
That those are the ones that we're talking about.
Yeah.
A couple of the other ones were were other like more consistency changes that weren't necessarily we're recommending or more aligning the zoning versus
Mhm.
like having it change like this?
The
Is
applicants for
that,
the
if that
dark
answers
gray.
your question?
So the only
000.
applicant,
The applicant's a dark gray,
Mhm.
that's right.
so. I was trying to slope,
How would the R5 affect the traffic in that area?
Make it worse.
It'll be.
So
That's
also with,
Anytime
well, because that's part of the
Population
recommendation
does.
that we would put along with it.
with the transportation, like, looking into that area for having it be a priority
Yeah,
in terms of making it a bit better for, or at least having like a study about what's needed.
yeah.
But also, is whenever like a newer development comes in for for a property, transportation will also look at that development, like, and see how it will affect like with the road
Level
itself,
service.
right? Yeah, so
that's part of the
that's
process.
part of the process itself for like a new development coming in that would, you know, if these were upzoned to R5, then, you know, for someone to come in and build at a higher density, that wouldn't go unnoticed for, you know,
But would that-
but the priority that you're talking about of terms of wanting to include the recommendation would maybe potentially like increase that the priority. What were you gonna say, Joanne?
So is it possible to make a recommendation contingent on the ability to accommodate increased traffic? Or not? No.
We're-
Yeah, it's because it seems to me, making a decision without knowing, with having blind spot and not knowing what is even possible
So-
to accommodate.
We will be running these recommendations by our Office of Transportation for them to review and test and tell us if
What if they don't like it and then it's
Well, that's
already
part of the
done?
development
it's a part of, I mean, it's a part
Yeah,
of the
ours
process
is
that
one.
we.
Oh, okay.
The other thing is, I was, trying to just trying to keep it simple too. I mean, we don't wanna continue on this and continue, it's. I think that's beyond the scope of our charter.
It's definitely, I don't know if it would help ease your question, but it definitely is not, if you don't make that contingency, it's not like it's gonna fall by the wayside where they're not gonna look at upgrading the road if this recommendation was made and if development happens along there.
Yeah.
It could be upgrading the road or improving public transportation,
Mm-hmm.
making that more. I
Yeah.
mean, widening roads is the simple solution, but, I mean, the one we've used in the past, but making public transportation more usable is another.
And I mean, there'd be more of a priority just in general in terms of like with the higher density use along like a road versus having a lower density.
Yeah.
It would
That would,
have more reason for them to be looking at transit along that
Mhm.
corridor.
you ready for the vote?
I think so. If you have a
Yeah.
motion on the,
No, I was gonna say, are we ready for the? So what we're saying is the applicant 002, two parcels right below it that are identified in light gray. And then the one directly to the, that's east, thank you.
Mhm.
That property there, those three areas and the applicant. All those in favor of moving that from the current zoning to R5? All
and online,
online,
are we?
all those in favor?
Agree, yeah, in favor.
And did you?
This is Emily. I'm in favor of the R2.
I just want to make
Easy,
sure.
recommended.
R5?
No.
She said
Favor
R2.
too.
And that doesn't include Munson Heights.
Does
or-
not
No.
include Munson Heights.
Okay,
So
Maybe
on
that was,
on the
that
phone,
was what Emily was saying. Munson Heights is also good.
Yeah.
okay, so yes, so Munson Heights will deal with in a separate one, because that's a separate change, I guess. So this vote is to make the property owner in 002, two parcels below it identified in gray,
Yep.
and then the one to the east,
Mhm.
R5.
Yep.
and then do you wanna vote on the Munson?
Yeah, you can also for the
Yeah.
for our
As
our
R2.
recommended
And then to
change.
change the Munson property from its zoning R1 to R2, which is already what it's built out as.
Also, it's not a change.
Well,
Or
it's
it is.
currently zoned R1. We're recommending it to go to R2 to get to
support
that
their
same
recommendation.
built out.
Okay.
That was our recommendation.
All those in favor? All those opposed? All right.
And online, any opposed is all right, in favor?
In favor.
In
Okay.
favor.
Okay, thank you.
Compromise. That compromise happening.
I think we won. No, I think that wasn't part of the, no, that was different.
Keep looking.
Yeah, just to let you know.
This-
I know.
It's just a long
Sorry.
telegraph.
I'm thinking about.
We'll still need to vote on that.
I know, that's. what I'm
Do we
trying
go
to
south
say.
on Telegraph Road, back to where?
Oh, yeah, we have
started?
2 more on South Telegraph.
Yeah,
Road.
we got,
Yeah.
well, 3 more, really.
Do we need to cover that area 108 too?
We take a break? Yeah, we can take.
We talked about,
Are we unmuted?
trying to have a target of 10 minutes for each discussion, because we have 4 more areas that we need to get to. So, we'll try to be our timekeeper.
Exceeded our target already.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to be our timekeeper. So we can try to stick towards that 10 minutes. Now, the one area north of Reese Road. We voted on that one.
Yeah, did we, so
Let me make sure we get this part.
this kind of gray area, the SBN 108, that was an area that we had recommended, upzoning from R1 to R2, and that was not a part of your motion just now, as I understand it.
It was
So you all did not recommend R5 on that. Do you then support the OPZ recommendation for that part to go to R2?
Yeah, I think that's.
R5.
Well, the difficulty with that going R5 is that the access road. It's either Reese Road or that little tiny
Minnetonka, yeah.
Minnetonka, so you put that R5, it's only gonna flow out to one of those 2 roads. Whereas what the area we just identified flows out to Telegraph. That's my thought process first.
What's the, I'm sorry, the yellow is R2.
2.
It's R2, so it would, so our recommendation would align that with what's to the west.
Right, but it's also, you're coming off of C3 and the towns, the red. And don't you guys, doesn't it kind of like the kind of staggered zoning to high dense, medium to low? So it would seem to me that you'd go from commercial to R5 to R2 and not directly from commercial to R2. I mean, just the way that.
I will point out too, that's Severn Elementary on Reese Road. Or
in
I'm
that
sorry,
area.
well, Old Camp Mead is what that is.
We talking to the
Yeah.
left of Seven Elementary or including Seven Elementary?
Including it.
There put some decent food in Seven Elementary. That's not what's.
I'd be okay including it in the
Here, a
R5
little bit west.
recommendation, unless anybody feels different.
Is it,
Like right where
Further
those
down.
trees are?
No, but
This way, right? Is towards, hold on, where did I get?
You are across the,
On the other side of the street, yeah.
So right here, right? This is Minnetonka,
uh-huh,
so it's right here.
this is,
Yeah.
it's that's
Okay.
the area we're talking about, yeah.
The question that we have is it the group recommendation to go to R2? Or do we want to include it in R5? Which is what we just voted on for the other area.
Or keep it R1, let's just
Or
keep it R1.
Would the county recommend?
County said 2.
I'm fine with the county's recommendation.
I think,
Yeah.
it's next to the elementary school.
Yeah.
Remember there used to be that random house there?
So do you all want to make a motion then to? I guess this one would be to support the OPZ recommendation to change those 4 or 5 properties to R2.
I have a real quick question.
Okay.
For the school property, there's no zoning for schools? Why are we calling?
It is,
Does
the
anything
intent is
weird
what
happen with the
would-
school?
the way that I kind of think about it is, I mean, if that school ever were to go away, now that's probably not realistic, but if it ever were to, you would want it to redevelop how would you want that to redevelop? And I would want something kind of consistent with the
All around
surrounding
it.
area.
If anything, it's gonna be growing.
Yeah,
Probably a moot point if it's school
Yeah.
in this county, but you know.
so I guess how many in favor of accepting OPT's recommendation to go to R2? Any opposed? No opposed?
Online.
And online folks,
I think Carlson's Donuts can handle the increased density.
Okay, so-
Say again, Sarah?
In favor.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna drop off early, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not feeling well. I'll see you at the next meeting.
thanks for joining us.
That's all right. No worries.
Hi. Hope you feel better.
Thank
Sure.
you.
We had talked a little bit about the southern part of Telegraph Road. We had 3 applications in that area. And we have one thing I did not talk about too, if you want to click on that, that is a little spot of commercial zoning in the front of the mobile home park there that we're recommending, changing that to,
R5.
yeah, R5, consistent with the rest of the mobile home park. It doesn't function as a commercial space now. So it's, from our perspective, it's a little bit of a cleanup, but, so that is one extra piece of this southern corridor that I didn't bring up before. So otherwise, we have those 2 applications that are kind of on the corner. We had recommended, they requested C3, the other requested R5. We recommended retaining R2. And what,
Sorry, it's just not loading.
and I think you all, and then the SVN 005 that Desiree has on the screen there. They had requested R10. We were recommending retaining R5. So.
Okay. So any objections to following the OPC's recommendations?
Yes. I recommend, granting the applicant's, request,
To go to R.
On each one of the properties.
every one of them.
Well, they get C3,
Yep.
C4.
Yeah, that's kind of weird.
They're saying C304.
Is that what they're requesting?
For which one you're talking about?
What number are you looking at?
0010.
I'm looking, yeah,
Says
9.
requested zone
It's not
C3,
example.
C3, comma, C4. 8130 Telegraph.
So your rationale is just let the owners do what they want with their property is,
Especially for these, because what I see is, these are little guys, they're you and me. These other 400 acre properties that some big developer is gonna come in and say, hey, I'm gonna, build what I want here, and I'm gonna take all the money. These guys are just trying to get along in life. So I'm like, let them. That's my thoughts.
And that's a perspective, right?
Right, and that's my, I mean, these guys,
well, we wouldn't even need a zoning office if that was the case, right?
well, I mean,
Desiree, could you pull up the speed view now?
Sure.
Please.
Yep. What was the address?
Just as a reminder, the vote
81,
doesn't need to be
8124.
unanimous across the way. I think
2007 is
the
the.
alternate perspectives are.
I'll stay over here on my little island.
Okay, being the lone man.
Don't worry, that's the same way it worked too.
You always need a contrarian.
So this is the 2 properties together next. to
Yeah,
each other.
9 and 10, are they
Yeah.
owned by the same?
Something,
No.
something tells me
It's a
that,
different.
does anybody live in that house?
And the first one,
Move back in there.
Yeah, so these folks,
Two.
yeah. R5 request there.
Somebody's
Oh, no, I'm
house.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yes, R5. And then the corner was a C3 request, but they're both currently R2.
I don't understand why they want R5. How big is that parcel? I don't know what it really is. Well, they said in their statement, in the data sheet, it
It
says
used to
that they
be.
were R5. And in the 90s, it was down zoned to R2. for the 009.
And then we're talking.
And how big of a parcel it is?
So the request to return to R2 is not to do anything with it.
We don't know.
I mean, they could turn around and sell it,
Yeah,
right?
they didn't do anything they want.
Yeah.
But what size is it? That's what I'm trying to-
Which one?
009.
They're about 0.86 acres. I think both of them.
I mean, because I don't know what
So they got
Or
they're about an
five.
acre and a half.
gains on it. I mean, subdivisions, you guys have to, subdivisions is very expensive. I mean, to me, that R 009, I don't know the owner's motivation other than they had it. But, you know, some properties are not worth subdividing. I mean, we look at properties every day that you can't subdivide because the whole is worth more than the two halves. And so 009, I don't, and we're only, our recommendation, there's still more paths for them to take. So we could agree with the county or people who make other recommendations. I don't understand the R5. You would have thought that they might have talked and they both would have went for C3.
That would
I mean,
make sense.
Made more sense, yeah.
but maybe the person at 009 doesn't want to do anything with it in that realm, and then they gotta pay higher taxes, like, Cindy, or somebody was saying earlier, that was a lot of things in the hearings, at least that people did not want their properties upsold because they were concerned with the taxes in regions that are
That's
the county
very,
council.
very fair. I'd be
Yeah.
pretty angry
Yeah.
if I planned on just staying in my house
So
and
like
not
we
doing
said
anything
to that when they
and
want,
suddenly.
right, that wants R5, well, let's give them C3. Well, they might like really oppose C3 because it could increase their taxes.
But
I
it
don't
is a
know.
process and this is just a step in the process. They would,
Right.
they would get a notification, they could, and we could change our recommendation if there's serious opposition to it. So
So
I'm
let's
putting that out there.
But let's make sure that we're being mindful of the time. So the vote was to accept OPZ's recommendations for the properties we just described.
Which was R2,
which
retain
are-
R2.
Yeah, R2 for that area, and then the small parcel that was up near the
Farther north.
further north near the trailer, yes, to make that consistent with what it's already built out as, right? 'Cause
To
it's
keep
not
it as our retaining R5.
retaining R5.
What did they want to do?
R10.
And
And it's just a single.
In the
home.
middle of,
In the middle
it's
of
an
R5.
acre and a half in the middle of R5.
All those,
I support all three.
yeah, all those in favor of OPZ's recommendation for all three? All those opposed? One opposed.
And online,
Emily, are you in favor?
she dropped off, I believe.
No.
No, that
Oh,
was.
that was Sarah.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we just take her as a yes unless she says.
She's
opposed.
muted. It
Or
looks like
abstain.
she's
Yeah.
muted. Is that
Or
right?
abstain, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm here. Can you repeat the question?
Whether we're going to accept OPZ's recommendation on the three parcels
Can't.
for two of them to retain R2 and actually to retain the current zoning on all three.
For those applications on South Telegraph Road.
I would agree with OPZ.
So
Okay. All right, if we want to move to the kind of western extreme of the region.
So that,
Well, yeah, right.
so Patrick, just to double check, that encompasses all of the changes, not just the applications on terms of with the C1
Do,
and
cleanup changes?
cleanup
yeah,
as well.
there were various OS cleanup, alignment cleanup, and then that one change that we had recommended of the removing the C1 zone at the front of the mobile home park,
Yeah.
which is actually a consistency change with the planned land use. So
And
there's support for all of that in this area.
and there's no applicants like going contrary to your recommendations.
There are no other applicant,
Yeah.
property owner applications in this area.
I guess all those in favor of accepting OPZ's recommendation for those changes? All those opposed?
This is Emily. I'm in favor.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, now we're.
All right, now the kind of western portion of the region. We had an application at the front of Jacobs Forest, the Jacobs Road area. So if you want to zoom into 7008, yeah. This is an area, the zoning currently is, you can kind of see underneath there. There's a good bit of cleanup that we are ultimately gonna recommend for some of that, but the area that's in gray there is the subject of an application requesting R15 that is consistent with the townhome community immediately behind it. Our recommendation has been to maintain the R5 zoning and actually clean up and apply R5 to where the R15 zone bleeds kind of over onto that gray area there. Our reason being the application area kind of those are all single family homes there, kind of surrounding two of those. So that the two lots that are not within the gray would be kind of surrounded by R15, but also just to the south, I'm gonna point here. These are also four single family homes as well. So the planned land use for this would actually set it up for these to be rezoned to R15 consistent with the townhome community. So we're kind of recommending that the planned land use change for these to maintain those single family homes. I think that they were built in the last, God, I looked at it
Was
earlier,
last 10 years.
last 10 years or so. So they're gonna be here in 20 years. I'm sorry?
A street view
Mhm.
or?
Yeah, go for
What's
that.
the address? Do you have the address?
I don't, it's Jacobs Road. If you.
It says Reese Road, Jacobs Road.
If you go to Mead Heights Elementary, it's right across the street as well.
So yeah, our recommendation
That
is
corner
to kind of,
with Jacobs and Fountain.
that's it.
Right here?
There.
Mhm.
So those are those four newish homes that were built, and we're looking south and turn around. There we go. Now go, if you kind of march north down the road.
Oh, that's that
So the-
giant fence. I know
And
that's
keep going, you'll get to the application area. The houses on the right, I think that,
Oh, yes. I remember this.
yeah.
So
So
the,
it's back in here. It would kind of come along. Let's look at the thing again. So it kind of, there's two homes that aren't included in the application area, two parcels. And then it would kind of wrap around. Like
that's one of the
here,
homes you
one of
see
the-
right there.
That would be excluded from that.
Yeah.
Or that is not a part of that application, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. I think that is not as well.
Yep.
So it
It's,
would kinda
it's more of
come
like the,
right
really
here.
the forest.
Area,
Yeah.
yeah. So we had recommended, we were looking at this and kind of struggled with it because the whole area could potentially be upzoned to R15 consistent with the townhome community. We sort of felt like on this portion of Reese Road, hold the line a bit on maintaining the single family neighborhood here. We have a zoning application further up Reese Road, which is, we just heard from the applicant today, and it's this one here, 0004. And that was a request to upzone there to R15 from current R5. And our initial recommendation is to support that. Because of its location, the proximity to the school, what's around it is more of that density. And it's on, kind of Reese Road, arterial, all of that. Whereas Jacobs Road, at least in that portion where the other application is designated a local road in terms of functional classification. So it's a little bit lower scale road. But you all can,
Yeah.
Somebody could make the argument the other way too, that all of that could go to higher density residential.
For the SVN 0008.
8, yeah. But
So I
our,
know you're all for properties, like specifically on this one, if I was the house in the middle and
No.
15 apartments came all around me, that property owner needs somebody like us to stand up for him, I think. So I'm against changing that with the 2 legs sticking out
I am too.
on the road.
I like the
Okay,
recommendation.
for this, I'm all for OPZ's recommendation.
Yeah, so just
Yeah.
keep in mind, those property owners matter too.
I still hate OPZ, but no, I kid you, I love you, really.
so good job. I appreciate it.
Oh.
So their recommendation is, so the current zone is R5, the recommendation is keep it the current zone.
Yeah,
For our-
okay, so. Cause also where this is. It's, yeah, look, and you pointed out, it is an awkward area.
It is.
Right.
And the thing is that Jacobs Road can't handle any more
That
traffic.
road
No,
can.
it's a major.
No, that's maxed
The
out.
major cut through a tiny winding road.
Right. I don't know how many accidents have been there along there, but I mean, I could see.
I don't like
There'd be
that
a
road
few.
going there.
Yeah, it's rough. I try not.
Yeah.
So, a motion, how many in favor
We can
of
scoot ahead here. How about?
008 of accepting OPZ's recommendation? Oops.
In favor.
So, any opposed? So.
I'm in
one-
favor.
All right, thank you, Emily.
One abstained, everyone else in favor?
Mhm.
And then,
So
For 008.
and then 0004 up here on Reese Road, it's currently R5. They requested R15. We're supporting that with our recommendation. What's you all?
For that one too, sorry.
I'm sorry?
Let me see a street view for that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So that's
Mhm.
right near.
It
they
does
just
help.
Built the,
Across from
on,
the Severance Center.
no, it's further down from the service center, right? It's further down to the right.
Oh, the other,
Across the street from it.
it's gonna be, you see where it says like Severn Hollow? Like right
Yeah.
across the street. But a little bit, yeah.
Or no, isn't it closer to the water tower?
Mhm.
I think it's not quite
Down this way?
that far.
Is there an address? It says 1135 Reese Road.
11:35. Oh,
Could be an area work on.
It's fine.
it's right
Yeah,
here.
so that, yeah, forest. Forest.
It's a bad traffic area.
That's, yeah. And they want R15.
That's the request.
Everything around it is R15, right?
So there's townhouses right there.
And it's currently zoned what, R5?
Mm-hmm.
And they have all the sewer and all that.
Yeah.
Public
Yeah,
amenities.
So, yeah, I'm okay with going R.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh,
Patrick.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, we have a
Either-
question
it's-
on,
Right, that road is the entrance to Van Bocken.
Yeah, I see now.
It's got a lot of pedestrian traffic on that too.
So much.
They don't use the crosswalks.
They don't use them. That's-
No, they don't use the crosswalks.
Nobody does.
Hey, Patrick,
we had a question online, yes.
can you go to an aerial view and turn the, turn an aerial on, an aerial,
Yeah, for
photograph?
satellite view, right?
Because what is the name of that small street?
Carosino,
Cariñoso.
Carinoso.
Carinoso.
Thanks, Trent.
Yeah.
The townhouse.
It means affectionate.
So then between this property and Carinoso Way, that's all what, single family in there, that's existing?
It is, and the thing is, those are gonna, yeah. Those are existing, at R5 zone, but there are townhomes on the north side or east side of Carinoso, so.
How old are those how old are those homes? I mean, like, if you looked at SStat, like, when were they built?
I can look up that.
The
We can see
one on the
all those
corner,
trees will just be a-
1123, looks like a junkyard.
Yeah, that property.
So Yeah, the street
Yeah.
view here is, and if you, I don't know if you want to drive down the street just a little bit and.
Down
see here. Yeah.
Looks like it's not
Yeah, so there's kind of a newish house.
One here.
R15, I think we take R15 right over to Arundel Way. It's all townhouses, why are we doing anything else there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
So,
all those cars?
I don't know.
Traffic,
I feel
it's just
like
traffic
it's
concerns for me, it's like the
congestion. I- they
congestion.
are
is-
fine, but
Yeah,
I
I'm worried
don't
about the little kids crossing the street, that's what I'm thinking.
I mean, right across the street is Arundel Forest, like, which is like, like.
You have
if
to
want a
remember-
single-family home,
Yeah.
so I don't know.
Whatever we would recommend, they still have to get the traffic studies on several
Mhm.
layers.
and because
Whether-
of the school, that was, yeah.
And we don't have to be unanimous.
Right.
No.
So, I guess all those in favor
You're on the
of,
wrong side right there.
accepting OPZ's recommendation? Of going to R15, now is that going for the whole
Well,
property?
just that
Just
application.
the application.
Just for the application, okay, so all those in favor of approving the application?
What is her?
It's just a
Um,
No, there's not.
There's an application.
Yeah, we're.
Emily, did
They
you,
spoke earlier too.
we haven't gotten to the opposed, but
Yeah,
did
we're
you
aligning-
agree or
we're
oppose?
aligning
Just to double check
For
for
the
that.
application.
To align.
I,
with the-
agree with OPZ.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, all those opposed? 2 opposed, 3 opposed? Okay, like 10 minutes.
I think they're opposing too.
Yeah. Just under the gun.
I'm worried about
Congestion.
Okay.
But they're gonna be forced to do something.
I know, but I just don't, I just.
The last little bit of trees in that area.
It's the last little bit, you have Pioneer City right there, I just think it's already so dense, like, it's just not.
It's good, man, it's gonna find out what they can get.
We'll have to do something there, yeah. So that, so, okay, so we're on to the next area.
Okay.
Yeah, what is 1900 Severn Road?
No, I'm saying they've had to put in, like, let me think that, I don't think a developer did it, but on Benfield Road, in Southern Park, it's a track, the path, they put an actual pedestrian red light for the traffic. Now it's been turned off the flash, I think, unless I just do something. But yeah, because B&H Trail was so busy right there.
That's right.
Park on Benfield.
That's the, where that's the area that,
They
that,
put in
the guys.
red light.
Nothing but.
Cars that stop.
If you're on a satellite, you can see it better.
Well, that's who,
So which
there's a
application?
traffic
It's
issue.
the 0001.
When they closed the main gate. for it,
Oh,
couldn't turn right.
that's why I was missing
Yeah,
it.
that's finally fixed now that they're not using the main gate.
Mhm.
Now we're gonna do something else, but putting more development.
Yeah,
Just saying.
even like, I mean, my neighborhood is right next to that.
I'm real close there too.
Like, it's a new development, and we can't even get like a place for the kids to stand at the bus stop,
Mhm.
like, there's. Kids have almost been hit, it's just dangerous.
Is that open space?
Down that road, like, going towards. like,
Are we
that-
still
That-
talking about
maybe that-
application
That
4?
could be also a recommendation we include for, in our strategies that area is unsafe and needs to be looked at in terms
is
of
unsafe.
pedestrian improvements.
I mean, just a road study, there's people fly down that road. It's
So
it's kind of an open area.
Well, it's
the
also,
Reed Road
the
and
speed
Van
limit
Bachman
is
area.
45.
Van Bachlen up to, what's that, with the red light?
Severn,
Severn Road,
Severn
yeah.
Road,
Okay, yeah,
you pass Disney.
But in between there, you have Disney too.
yeah.
Is
Okay.
the issue just crossing or is it the bus stop is there?
No, there's, what happens is there's a lot of people that will cross from the Pioneer City, development over to the Van Bachlen and back and forth. There's crosswalks there, but they're just not used because why, I don't know. I guess they think, oh, I'll save a minute,
And it's just also that strip where there is no sidewalk, like it ends when you get to the townhouses, so like.
Oh, okay.
Literally, like one time I tried to, I don't know, make it walkable, walk the dog, and I was like, oh my God, never did.
Yeah.
Almost that, like, and I think they built like all of the new developments and like for buses can't turn into them to pick up kids, so all the kids have to stand like kind of off of Reese Road. It's just not a space.
That's where the.
This is helpful. This is good stuff to hear, though. We can work this into
I mean,
some.
we've been trying, like, I know for us, I know our homeowners association has
The other weird thing, if you want, I'm not gonna do it.
Yeah, a lot of parents just park along.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. So we did have one other one kind of further north in this area. It's off of it's 1900 Severn Road, an application in gray there, 0001. It's currently zoned R2. They've requested R5 just with kind of the hope to create more housing. We've recommended retaining R2 just to not create a very isolated island of R5 in this otherwise low density neighborhood.
That's not low density though, because right across the street are the townhouses.
No, this area,
Right behind them is
Street view?
townhouses.
I think right behind him is more of,
Or, yeah, so
Is this an
more single
application or
family,
just a record?
this was an application.
Is that like near 12?
Over in the corner.
or maybe you're right.
13 and Severn, what's the address?
It's
Um,
00.
1900 Severn?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
looks like a
oh,
lot of
Oh,
houses
this is-
there.
yeah.
That is that big,
We did a site visit here. Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
now. It's kind of an established community, and then it's almost like this is it's vacant. but
It's like
there's
an abandoned house.
on
There's an
it.
Somebody
abandoned
wants to
house.
dump it.
There's a house back there?
Yes.
Oh, I never-
Mhm.
And they wanted to go what?
R5.
They wanted to go R5, but the neighborhood that it's kind of in is R2.
This is like a very established neighborhood, and then there's a little,
And also, this is not the neighborhood they'd be accessing it from.
right?
True.
Like, this is gonna be the area they're accessing it from. If you wanna go to Street View off of Severn Road. That's right.
So they'd be accessing it off of Severn and coming through here, and whereas we were on Street View, kind of in here.
Yeah.
So the
Um,
recommendation is to keep it R2?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can you guys go off of Street View on Google and go up to aerial with the aerial photograph on?
8.9 acres. It's a lot of acres.
A big space.
So it's a lot of that
It
forest
is.
behind there.
There's a,
Yeah, so
There's the house.
I would say clearly this is probably going to subdivide at some point in the future. And
Do you wanna?
we were recommending subdivision that would sort of match what is to the east and south, so, and where it would access through.
That makes sense. Otherwise you have this pocket of like dense
Mhm.
townhomes there, kind of like what's on Telegraph.
We're
Where
across
is the
right
frontage?
across the street from Middle Severn.
Where is the frontage
On
for
the-
this?
the frontage, you said?
Yes.
The frontage is is also Severn Road.
Well,
But
They
they,
would be-
and
they
they
would be-
didn't ask for zoning? I mean, the property, the way we're showing it right now, it doesn't show that it has frontage on Severn.
it doesn't.
Sorry, yeah.
The aerial again.
Where's the front?
And you're saying that they have to access out to Severn?
They submitted,
Yeah.
with their application, a sort of site plan that showed access through one of these properties on Severn Road. So I don't recall off the top of my head if is there an easement there? I'm not sure,
Oh, yeah.
but that's what it would take to get to the site.
Oh.
Because they don't have frontage on that road to the north?
Attachment from the application.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure that,
Can you pull up
Can-
the application?
Yeah, here's the attachment.
The attachment?
Yeah.
So everybody can see that?
I think they are landlocked. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Hey, clouds.
We're struggling with,
Yeah.
the wireless for some reason, but there's what they had submitted with.
Yeah.
Which, when you look at what's at the bottom, is consistent with what's in the bottom.
Across the street.
Across the street on Severn, yeah.
There's someone clapping for this.
That little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Oh, somebody, the applicant?
And you know, stuff.
That's what they're showing, but that's not. what they could do
Right.
with our team.
It could be far more dense.
R5, there was an
R5.
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 I was trying to go on five.
Yeah. Which that build out there is for our five, right? That looks like. Not for our 15.
Doesn't look like.
No, that's not,
That's what I'm
they
saying.
probably give them, that's probably an R5.
Yeah.
It's 5 dwellings per acre and 8 acres, so it's 40 dwellings.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Which is
Yeah,
about
so,
that.
and they're under 40.
3 or 3.5.
So there's no really danger of it
They're
going.
at 29 dwellings.
Right.
Yeah, the thing is, they would be completely surrounded by R2 development if they went to R5.
But their access road goes out to Severn across the street from it.
Is
closer to
R5.
R5.
Yeah.
So their argument is we access it off R5.
Mhm. Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, I have no objection to it.
They might acquire other parcels anyway, depends if it's a homeowner or a developer.
Yeah,
To make that road, access road, they would need to, wouldn't they?
they probably have an easement already.
They probably already have something.
So then also from this neighborhood, you know, then this becomes visible from,
It's a green buffer. It's to, or something, you know, like, is that, you know, geez, they have buffers,
have
they
to
have
buffer.
walking paths going through.
I don't know, unless, sorry about.
Think of the trees. Remember day one when you
Remember,
Well, it's not gonna stay
there's
forward.
a review process,
I
so
know.
we'll take care of the trees and then some.
Yeah.
But I'm going with OPZ personally, if we want to take a temperature.
So let's take a temperature. How many in favor of going to R5, of approving the homeowner's request to go to R5?
1, 2, 3, 4, and online. Okay,
I'm good with going to R5.
Five.
okay, so that was 5. All right.
And I'd almost recommend the 2 parcels as a separate, the 2 parcels in front of this. Why leave them R2? Square it up. And recommend that you could send them changes to go to R5 there for the 2. They're
Mhm.
coming in on that pipe stem to get to the parcel. There's 2 houses that make, the 2 houses in front of it make it a complete, those 2 parcels make it a,
Probably already own it.
I wouldn't stretch.
okay, you just, you don't need.
Yeah, that's right, opposed.
Yeah. How many?
Well, no, that was just something, that's just conversation.
So we have 5 in favor of
Phil
R5.
said so.
yeah, I think there is.
Water and sewer.
Yeah, there is,
There's already city water there, I believe.
Yeah.
all along Severn Road.
It's whatever this, what's horizontal? That's sewer.
That's planned. Yeah.
So it's in planned sewer service.
So there's none there now, but there's planned source service.
Mhm.
They'd be required to connect if they're in the
Which is
required
part-
extension distance.
Which is probably part of the plan, development plan. Okay,
Do
so,
you all- Do you all have the ability to move on GeoCortex? I know GeoCortex was freezing for you, but can you get to this parcel?
Yeah, let's see, what's the,
The address.
yeah,
I can just move there or. I
It's
think that would be-
1907.
do we not
Quicker.
have the, what is it?
1907.
Okay.
I just don't know if it was freezing or not.
Still on some, what's the chat?
1900.
Yeah, 1900.
Severn, you said?
7, yeah.
Big,
They
big
actually look
property.
like they front on Bear Forest. And that's where public water and sewer is.
So I wonder,
Along
would they
with
be
Severn.
required to connect through? Like, I wonder if they actually own these properties and,
I would think they would have submitted an application for those. If they
That's,
hadn't done it.
says
Right.
they don't, well, that is not the same owners for the 3
right,
parcels, but all 3
so they
separate.
don't, they're proposing that they access that there, but would they actually access there, or would
Yeah,
they?
I'm not sure.
Let's
Depends
see,
if they have,
So the road to the north, go see if it's private or if it's public. You should be able to go down to transportation,
I can do that real quick.
okay,
because if the road is private, that may be why they're not showing coming off of the road to the north.
Fair Forest.
I mean, aside from the fact it's way interior to that subdivision.
And there should be an easement in the allowing access for that property. And that's just a lot of research to do for that.
Thinking at one point in time, it was all
Yeah.
one property.
No, that's like,
Yeah.
there's no,
DPW road inventory.
on that overlay they have,
Mhm.
there's
Where
no
the
point
barriers
of
are
access
done.
for 1900. You see 1902 and
Yeah.
then 1814.
Is that within your
There should be a
different one?
driveway,
You could
the
chat
way
to
the
that
house
people.
is numbered,
Yeah.
there should be a driveway to the left of 1902. But the red lines don't show it,
Let's see.
but the system doesn't always pick up
you all-
easements,
You can open that.
or it could be a
Okay.
new easement.
Can you turn off the sewer?
The sewer,
And can you go see if it's public roads? Like what is the road status immediately around this property?
We were trying to do that, but
It's
it's,
not, that link.
We
isn't-
can't get the DPW road inventory open
Okay.
right now for some reason.
I can work on it if we want to continue on. I can
Okay,
come
so
back.
the question that we have 5 in favor of R
Five.
5. How many of those in favor, who's in favor of accepting OPZ's recommendation of R2? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, okay.
And you have Emily online.
Yeah,
she said-
she agreed with R5.
Okay. So split on this one,
Yeah,
and we'll capture that and make sure that
I think either or.
goes forward. Okay.
I think we should sit here all night until we get a clear majority.
You want to finish the last?
Okay, that, I don't know that you want to do that.
Yeah.
You want to finish the last?
It's like we're in
couple?
jury.
Yeah, let's finish out this like far western portion of the area. Yeah, we should, yeah.
This should be this next part, just with the 0001 and various cleanup should be pretty quick.
Yeah, there were several others cleanup
Or
areas in the
0101.
western
One's-
portion, alignments, OS zoning. We are recommending OS zoning on that SVN 101, which
Do we need to vote
is.
individually on the cleanup? Or can we just say if there's no application and being requested, just accept OPZ's recommendation?
You can say
Yeah.
that, yeah.
we should still look at
Kind of
it.
clean up, is it only open space like in the communities or?
It's not only open space, it's consistency with planned land use as it was
So, could be
adopted.
Taking someone's parcel that's split zone in these consistencies, is it R2, a split zone property of R2 and R5? You're changing it to the property line and that's what we're.
Consistent with what's adopted in Plan 2040 with the planned land use. And if it's something different than that, we are pointing it out to you all as our recommendation is something different.
Do we just want to, does anyone want to go to the? That's okay.
Yeah, how many are there,
What?
cleanup changes in this region?
I don't have a number for you, but.
Like 6 or
It's kind of
1,000?
those things that are indicated in,
Kind of like these
lot.
OS area.
We could just go over the ones
and-
that are different from the from the plan changes.
yeah.
Okay, so again, we don't. How many in favor of accepting OPZ's recommendation for the cleanup changes in the areas that does not have a applicant?
Right, because we'll have to send the applicant or the person a letter.
Yeah,
And then
oh
they
yeah,
come back in
definitely.
and say, we don't want it.
Sure, yeah. We'll get all that feedback to you guys too.
Yeah.
So what was the,
All those in favor?
and Emily?
I'm in favor.
Okay. And then just real quick, did we get
Can we
to the,
very quickly talk about the Stevens Road area since we
Yeah.
have our applicants here? Sorry.
yeah,
What's the application?
It's, there are 2 applications, SBN 0007 and 0006. They're kind of to the west of Archbishop Spalding and right beside the Catholic Church there. Both of those applications, so they're currently zoned R2, both have requested R5 zoning. Consistent with, increased housing in the area. They have R5, there is existing R5 zoning to the north. We were recommending supporting that upzone, and then we were gonna raise the question with you all about potentially upzoning all of the area to the east of this, all the way to New Cut Road, upzoning that to R5. It would be consistent that there's an existing neighborhood on Spalding Circle that is developed at that density currently, so it would sort of bring that into alignment as well. And again, I don't know that I anticipate the school and the church could potentially go away at some point. There's the chapel, that on the corner. Rezoning these to R5 would allow, if those developments went away or those buildings went away at some point, they could be redeveloped at that, and it would all kind of be consistent on the south side of Stevenson Road.
Where are you talking about going to R5?
It's kind of two questions. So the two applications there requested R5, we recommend supporting that. And then everything from the east here to New Cut Road, which is where the school is being.
When you say the school, that's where
Archbishop Spalding.
Because right across the street now is Severn Run High
Yes,
School.
exactly. Exactly.
Directly across the street.
So, yeah, it seemed to make sense to us that this is an area where some additional density would make sense.
What about going west? If you're going.
Right across the street there is already high density, but there are a bunch of townhouses.
Across, what street?
Across Stevenson?
On the other side of Severn Road. I'm not Severn, on Stevenson
Stevenson?
Road.
Stevenson, yeah, right there.
Over here?
There's like, maybe they're not townhouses, but they're at least duplexes.
You're thinking on that same side of the road, the other way.
Yeah, just talking, just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
Cause I'm trying to see how big the parcels are to the west. And if they develop.
627?
627 and
Six two properties are right where Spalding Circle is. It lets out.
So what,
So it's,
So the question is where, if you go back to the view you just had. So if I'm hearing correctly, the two properties that we're talking about here, they come out right where that loop is, Stevenson and.
That's where the two.
they're just to the left of the
they're over
church.
here, yeah.
Oh, they're over there, okay.
That's it. Yeah.
So OPC's recommendation is to take from where those two properties are to the right, where we're showing the screen, all the way down to
New Cut Road
New
there.
Cut Road, to R5.
It would only be if the church sold that there's really any land there.
Right,
Which is
because that,
fine to take it to R5.
I'm
But
not-
but
But
to the west,
again, if it's,
To the north.
if it, I don't see the church selling the property. And the thing is, if you do that, then it just raises, if there's anybody in there, it's gonna raise their property taxes.
I thought I heard recently that, through somebody who's reading me the paper, that the Catholic Church was giving up some properties. So even though it seems like a permanent thing
But yeah,
to,
there's
Church
two
would pay
churches we're talking about.
There's
There's
Calvary,
Saint
yeah.
Bernadette's and then Calvary Chapel International.
But the churches wouldn't pay their property taxes anyway. So to address the applicants in the room, all those in favor of accepting OPC's recommendation to approve the two requests
To R5.
to R5? All those in favor?
and Emily,
I'm in favor.
okay, thank you.
I believe that's unanimous. All those opposed? It's unanimous.
Do you want to get into the conversation of, should we be talking about upzoning on the south side of Stevenson Road?
Well, now, right next to them is a 16-acre piece, right
To the
next to the applicants, to the west,
Yeah.
Oh, to the west.
to the west.
Right there, right there.
Tributary run
And
down.
that tributary runs right through it. So it'd be limited to environmentally
Mhm.
anyway.
So we could do
Well, no, they could do it, but it would, depending on the subdivision process.
Right.
All, you know, you gotta have buffers to the stream and everything else, so even depending on, there's cluster builds too, cluster subdivisions.
it. Let's at least give
They
them
changed it a lot. Yeah, they 16 acres, if you gotta take.
Yeah, parcels,
There's a
yeah.
lot of calculations to how many houses they would get.
I see.
But they could centralize them closer to Stevenson Lane and leave the environment alone. Which is what part of the county main review process is to protect the environment. So for the, so you see everything west after the big 16-acre parcel. And they might come back in and say, no, we don't want to pay the taxes for R5, like they brought up before. Or we just leave it alone and let them figure it out.
So we have three things we're talking about, whether to take R5, so on both sides of the applicant properties, down in New Cut and up to that 16 acres, make that whole block R5. Make the one block which OPZ recommended from the applicant's property down in New Cut alone R5. Or to leave it all alone.
We'll just vote on that now.
Yeah.
With OPZ
Yeah.
recommending. And then we can discuss that or leave it alone, the parcel net on the west.
That's true. So all those in favor of accepting OPZ's recommendation? Go from to R5. All those opposed?
I don't have an opinion on that one. I don't see why we change it all sometimes. Like in that case, I don't, because there's already neighborhood there and there's already things there.
Part of it is it brings that neighborhood is built at that scale, so it sort of brings that, applies the correct zoning to a built neighborhood. And it would expand some potential for additional housing units in this area, which is near, we've got 2 schools apart, 3 schools with the Archbishop Spalding.
Okay.
There's,
That makes sense.
yeah, so that was why in our mind, it felt like this was a good place to maybe.
There is a 2.2 acre parcel there on the corner, the St. Bernadette 793.
Yeah.
We wind up getting some houses on it.
Yeah,
To the east, Patrick, where we talked about agreeing with you guys.
yeah, and I know that we thought about in terms of like the effect of like we go to R5, yeah, it would be.
Well, you have different setbacks, and we're not really from R2 to R5, but I can understand why you guys would want everything zoned for what it was built to. Because it could avoid variances and different things in certain zonings, just to do things to your house that is already, not give more housing, but to, not to have to go through a variance process.
And it just helps with planning in general, where it's based on zoning that is more reflective of what's on the
You
ground.
don't just have spots.
Can you guys zoom out of this aerial a little?
Ooh. Yeah, sorry, this is
In or out?
it's very
Zoom,
touchy right now. It's not loading very well.
yeah, turn the sewer off. It's probably not loading because you have it on Zoom. I mean, Zoom and GeoCortex it's
Yeah.
not easy. So it doesn't want to move, does it?
I can just do Google Maps. Or
Well,
what did you want to
that's-
see?
I wanted to see the parcel data for that whole area.
We do the viewer has parcel data.
Yeah, I can do that.
There you go. Is zoom out further, Christina, or?
No, I mean, that's pretty good right in there.
So the road. Wildflower Drive, what was that developed as? It's R2, right?
Wildflower Drive.
It's 4 parcels over from the applicants to the
Mhm.
west.
Yeah, I see.
All the little lots.
Yeah.
Is that some
Mm.
kind of cluster subdivision?
Yeah, I think it
Yeah,
is.
we actually,
It
we're
is.
driving
We
down
drove
in
through
there
there, we're like, how did this? Yeah.
for our
See how
stuff.
they protected the environment?
Yeah,
But they, if it wasn't, I mean, the R2 and R5 matter
yeah.
for
Yeah.
the amount of houses.
Yeah, of course.
So am I confused? I'm confused. Didn't we already vote on this and aren't we moving on to something else or is there still?
I think this was the
Well,
last.
the only thing that, just to make sure for what you were saying, Jason, that we voted on in terms of the application sites and then from what we recommended, but you were originally gonna go until the third of like going also to see what the SAC was gonna do for
Do we want
west
to do a
as well.
recommendation for the west area?
Wasn't that R5 across the street where the center of the park, like all those little
It is.
parcels?
Yeah.
Aren't they all R5?
Yes.
I'd be fine with a recommendation to make that parcel R5.
And then see behind the
parcel?
Cold Water Reserve.
To the
that's
west
all
of the two
R2
applications.
Just
fully
see this
developed.
big one here?
And all, I mean,
And everything to the east.
everything to the west
The west up
to
to,
Wildflower. Which
Okay.
is the
Wild-
cluster.
So the, right, yeah, right
Yeah.
there.
So this one, these and this.
yeah,
Yep, 1, 2, 3, 4 parcels. We'll
Okay.
match across the street and match coming down Stevenson Road of all R5.
I know we answered the question and then I'm gonna ask her. It's like, why? Right now, like, I know it's on the other side, there was housing there. This side, there's nothing there right now.
well, it's a potential spot to add
Right.
higher density housing.
It's very wooded.
And you mentioned about the holding capacity too and all.
Yeah.
And where this fits in
You know,
prioritization.
I think because you have the school there, they just built the school.
And I just said,
That
yeah,
area can accommodate more
maybe a good idea to
houses.
mention, would it be a good idea to mention like
So
the
where do we want
holding
to keep?
capacity in terms of
Like,
we have
when we're
enough
talking
It is-
to build out.
It is
Right?
kind of, it is pretty constrained, but
Yeah.
I
Ability to
understand.
ability to have the
You know,
growth
Why,
and
but I'm
be-
like, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's a good point.
I mean, I understand the law, but it's not
Yeah,
like
it's
somebody
kind of
says,
fun.
I have this plot of trees and
I also think.
Yeah.
I think we should leave it alone for right now.
right.
Okay.
By the time you go through.
So-
everything.
So we have Joanne saying, don't upzone the other portions of the south side of Stevenson Road. And you're
I'm
saying,
fine.
consider,
I'm just throwing it out for discussion. I'm not.
that's what we were doing. too.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
To me, it can stay just the way it is, and if they being, the property owners are paying attention to 2040 and hear our discussion,
Mhm.
they might wanna put an application in for the next phase, and.
Which will
it's out
open
of
up
our-
again,
We'll just
won't it?
leave it staying the way it
It'll-
is.
Well, yeah, when we put this out for public review, they could come to us at that point.
Yeah, so that,
And then go to their county council person at the end of the whole thing for amendments.
So I'm kind of getting a sense of no consensus on the rest of,
I said we just leave it.
or is everybody thumbs down on that? The south side of,
I vote to leave it.
I just
Leave it.
Leave it as it is.
Discussion.
Okay. Yeah.
so the applicants were thumbs up, but
Yes.
not the remain, okay.
Not to the
Can
west.
Can I ask
No
one
recommendation
question?
to R5 was accepted. We voted on that before.
Yeah.
Oh, from the applicants?
Yeah, we already
Yeah.
voted on that,
That's
yeah.
our-
You cut- Okay, now I'm with you.
Yeah.
I gotcha.
We voted to agree with zoning
Yes,
on
yes.
that from the applicants
Mhm,
down.
mhm.
The applicants got theirs, and then I would just say, there's nothing to say about these other 4 parcels. It
Yeah.
was just a discussion.
Right, I understand.
I don't really wanna say we agree or don't.
Sure,
agree.
sure. No, that's fine. Of
Got it.
course. It's good to
Just
bring
a
up.
discussion.
And what were you gonna ask Christina real quick?
Barnett Stevenson's Property LLC, how long are they on the property, please? Can you click into that? And maybe get to SDAT?
The big one with the trees.
Immediately to the west.
37 Stevenson Road.
1914.
And it's a non-arm's length transfer, so they put it in an LLC. But it must have been the previous owners that put it in an LLC. Okay, I was just curious.
Sure.
I was curious if maybe it had been purchased by a developer. It doesn't necessarily look that way.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably
Barnett
owned
Stevenson
by the
property.
same family since 77 and just
Oh,
changed
yeah,
in
that's true.
14.
So the family just probably put it in the LLC for, to get out of an individual's name.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, of course.
And the LLC is the name of the last person.
There's
Barnett,
probably
it
the
was
Barnett.
owned by Shirley Barnett,
And
and it's now Barnett Stevenson Property LLC. So.
And and kind of like big pic, like we have a long Reese Road, there's been a lot of, some, Barnett owned it, like, somebody owned it,
Yeah.
they passed away. Well, they didn't write a proper will, and it's split a bit across 15 people or more.
Yeah.
Oh, and those 15 people, some of them passed away, and now it's up to 70 people.
So you can't.
So
decide
now,
for
so,
yourself.
and nobody, you can't get 15 people to agree on anything, you can't get 70 people, you're gonna get 70 people to. And this is, then the property's just in limbo.
Yeah.
So putting in.
Well, I don't know that I agree with that because they did do the legal work to put it in an LLC. They had to hire an attorney. So I'm not sure that I agree that with what you're saying there.
Okay, well.
So for this, there's a decision to be made on this one, so why don't we, unless there's an objection, make a motion to close?
We still have to approve.
Oh, the meeting minutes from last?
No,
No,
we don't have the meeting notes. Call us out.
never mind.
Did we
Thank you,
lost-
everybody.
Or we lost for the consistency and the. We're just, yeah.
When and where is the next meeting?
We're gonna get to that.
It's here again on.
Recording.
Yeah.
Sorry, Patrick.
It's election day.
This
I was thinking, oh, at the end,
May
the agenda
14th.
next day, we have to go back.
Yeah, the next meeting's here, May 14th.
We had the meeting.
With people.